Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to GameFace, episode 414 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. We're getting down to it, folks. Just a couple more episodes of GameFace left to go before the end of 2024, and you know who's going to be with me to do that. Of course, that is Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
I'm making a lot of assumptions here.
You don't think he'll be around in a couple weeks?
No, he's gonna come in here and door will be open.
Just walk on in.
Bats flying around.
How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are having a good week. The year is starting to wind down. Hope you guys had an awesome Thanksgiving if you're living here in America. I think Canada's Thanksgiving was weeks ago or something.
Yeah, they have a different time.
But happy Thanksgiving to y'all too. Because if I missed it, I apologize. But happy Thanksgiving. Matt, how was your Thanksgiving? Did you end up doing anything?
No.
Yeah.
Just sat here. I played some games.
Yeah. I worked all day.
I didn't see anybody all weekend. Everybody left town this time.
Oh, it was a ghost town.
Yeah.
There was nobody around.
I went outside to get the mail and stuff on Sunday because I hadn't gotten the mail for like 3 days. And
because that's just how you're rolling.
And I went outside and it was so quiet.
At night, I could sleep. Like in the morning, there was no traffic. I slept in a little bit longer than normal. Like it's weird when there's nobody in LA.
When LA empties for their holiday, there's 4 times of the year that LA gets like that, and it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, Yom Kippur, and Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because everybody, then it
if you need to go anywhere,
those are the times.
Those are the days.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, really only Super Bowl Sunday is useful because it's the day things are still open.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, those are the best times to go driving in LA. Is because everybody's gone or home watching the game.
And you can get everywhere in like 5 or 10 minutes instead of an hour. It's really
I remember
nice.
that the Yom Kippur thing was I discovered that the first year we were here. I can't remember his name. The guy who was the showrunner on the Screensavers when we first came down. Or no, he was a showrunner on Unscrewed.
With Martin Sargent.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but we're all walking out at the end of the day, and it'd taken me no time because it took me no time to get there because it usually took me like an hour to get to the studio then back out in Santa Monica, and I got there in no time at all that morning, and we're leaving. There's nobody on Olympic Boulevard,
which is never happens.
I'm like, what is going on? Where is everybody? And the guy, I can't remember. It was Steve. Was his name?
I don't remember him.
Can't remember. But he was like. He's like, oh, it's the beginning of the High Holy Days. Everyone's in temple. I should be in temple, but I'm a bad Jew. And I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah, that's why.
Oh, this city does shut down.
Like, can we get more High Holy Days? Can we do that?
So I can get to work in less than an hour.
Is that the secret?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, we don't want any more of those. He's like, I feel guilty enough as it is. But no, he was the one who told me. It's like that's what, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like that. There was really that much commute traffic. Taken off the road because of a religious holiday.
Yeah, it's true. Yep. So I hope
they didn't even require any travel. They just had to go to a building.
That's true. Wasn't there some where they need to stay inside and stuff? Like,
it depends on the sect, or the whatever the variant. It's like the not stay inside, but like that was the original Passover. Yes, you did have to stay inside because the angel of death would kill you.
Right?
Or would kill the firstborn
allegedly
son. But the you get the Orthodox communities in the middle, like down in Fairfax area, where
I drive through there every time I come here.
Yeah, on Saturdays you can't do work, and work is basically anything.
Yeah,
pressing button, like all the elevators work automatically. You can't open door, everybody's walking around because you can't drive cars. There's a great story it's a play called Fires in the Mirror, but it's basically this woman named Anna Devere Smith who did interviews with people. It was this problem in Brooklyn Heights back in the day, and it was a rabbi in a limousine. His limousine hit and killed a black girl in the neighborhood, and then a bunch of black teens attacked Jewish people. It became a whole conflict thing. Yeah. And so she went out and interviewed a bunch of people she could find that were related to the thing, about living in that area, living that part of Brooklyn Heights, and all that stuff. And she'd perform on stage as all the different characters. And it was like an interview documentary show, but as a one-woman stage show.
Interesting.
And she has a thing about this: she's performing as a Jewish woman, and they have the rule about you can't do work, and the baby accidentally turns the radio on full blast, and none of them can touch the radio.
Oh man!
So it's just blasting, and they live in an apartment building, and this little black boy that is not Jewish is walking by, and they kind of like, you can't ask someone to do that for you.
You see, you have to like hint at
it, and he's like, that's really loud. She's like, yeah, it is really loud. It's really annoying, isn't it? It's really pretty awful.
What could you do to stop that?
And so he cocomes into the room, their apartment, and he goes up to the radio and he goes, "You turn it this way," and then he like leaves.
That's great. That's funny.
But yeah, that is an issue sometimes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, welcome to GameFace. Again, we only have a couple more episodes to go. Next week's show is going to be, I hate to use this word because everybody uses it now, banger. We have, it'll be, let's see, where do we even start? We have Marvel Rivals. We have Infinity Nikki. We have Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Is there a fourth game for next week?
There is another thing.
I think there is another one.
There is another thing that I'm forgetting after that.
Yeah. So next week's show is going to be huge, and it'll be next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, as usual, right here at twitch.tv/SIFTedGames.
Oh, there's the Soul Reaver collection. I don't know.
Right. We'll see if we can fit it in. Yeah. But... And then after that, then
Path of Exile 2. That's the other.
Oh, that's right. Path of Exile 2. Oy. So I know I mentioned this before. My mom is flying here right now. She literally, my wife just sent me a photo of her getting on the shuttle at the airport. So she's on the way here. This next week is going to be bonkers for me because I need to play like 5 of these games while showing my mom Los Angeles for the first time in her entire life. I'm going to do the best that I can. That's all I can say. I'm one person. I only have so much time. But the plan right now is one normal Game Face next Tuesday, same time, same place. And then our show after that will go over all the big reveals from the Game Awards. Then we'll do our Game of the Year awards. We'll go over our Fantasy League. That's going to be a crazy episode to get through. So we have 2 more, and both are going to be incredible. So stick around. Hope to see you. And the second show, we're not 100% sure what day that's going to happen yet. We need to figure out the Game Awards is on a Thursday. Is that right?
Yeah, the 12th.
And I think we're thinking about maybe doing it on a Saturday. Is that right?
I can't do it that Saturday.
You can't do it the Saturday. We're still figuring it out.
Sunday. Maybe we could do it Monday for sure.
Okay.
I think.
We'll figure it out. Just follow us on Twitter for all the updates if you aren't kind of in the whole loop at sifted.net. Follow us on Twitter at SIFTedGames, and we'll make sure we update you guys there as soon as we have more information and all that jazz. But anyway, this next week's going to be bonkers for me. And in fact, today's show, we have a hard out at 4 o'clock Pacific because I have to go and pick up my mom and my wife at the airport. So here's the other thing, Matt. We have no game reviews in this episode. Mm-hmm. None. This was the worst week for game releases of all of 2024, which is weird. If they could have just slid a couple of those games into this week, that would have been so nice.
Well, they got it was a Steam sale, so
yeah, but it didn't work out that way. So that's the way life goes. And my mom has not been here. I've lived here for 20 years. It was not a great time for her to come. I knew it, but I couldn't say no. So anyway, that's the spot that I'm in. Let's check in on you guys before we get going here with GameFace 414. Let me scroll up here so I can check out all the Twitch Prime love that you guys gave us, and there was a bunch. Stevie Pops, thank you. Edis01, thank you. Irenas, thank you. One Twitch Viewer 2, thank you. I think that's a placeholder name. Ilordarian? Some of these names are so hard to pronounce.
Lordarian. I mean, Lordarian is a place in the FromSoft game. So.
Lordarian. David 5807, thank you. 56 months, that's insane. Too Quick Capri, thank you. 64 months is insane. Who else? Metal Gear Jimmy, thank you. Cinetike, 21 and 51 months. Call of Duty, thank you. Call of Duty 1. Sorry, I correct myself there. Faradol, won't you all be on Christmas break in a couple weeks? Yeah, and we got to get all this jammed in before we leave for Christmas break. And I leave on roughly like the 18th or something like that. Surgeon Ed, thank you for Twitch Prime. AJ the Legend Watson, thank you. Hope you're having a good holiday season, AJ. Hope your family's doing good. Hope your mom's doing good. I know earlier in the year she had some health issues. What else we got here? And Vincent just telling us about Path of Exile 2, which is a big action RPG. Vincent, when is Sifted getting a blue sky? Soon. So I was going to kind of wait till next year to kind of talk about all the stuff we're doing next year. But one of the things we are going to do next year is we're leaving Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm leaving it personally, and the business is leaving Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And I'm already on Blue Sky. You can follow me there. I'm Shane Satterfield at Blue Sky. And Sifted is leaving Twitter, X, whatever F you want to call it.
I mean, it's Twitter.
Yeah, I'll call it Twitter. So, yeah, that's going to happen. Again, that's not happening until the new year. There's some other things that are going to change in the new year. We're going to start streaming the show live to both YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So our YouTube crew, you guys have asked for this for a while. That's going to start happening in 2025 as well. So we got a bunch of stuff coming. We're going to wait till the early weeks of January to really kind of lay into all that stuff and kind of give you guys the lowdown on all of it. So anyway, I'm already at Blue Sky. Follow me. I'm at Shane Satterfield. Have you gone there yet?
No.
Are you gonna?
Yeah, I just haven't had the time or interest to go through the hoop jumping of signing up for all that stuff.
Yeah.
I had an invite to it way back in the day when it was still invite only, and I just never. I got to a certain point in the sign up process, and I'm like, this is too convoluted.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it's probably more streamlined now.
Yeah.
But I was just what I am. But yeah, it's time.
I've been a member of Blue Sky for almost not a year, but 8 months or whatever. I did get in the early,
or maybe I did, and I don't remember which one was that or Mastodon. That was annoying to. Maybe it was Mastodon that I did that with and never got into Blue Sky. I can't remember.
Yeah. I mean, just being honest, it's people would look at my account. Oh, you have 6,000 followers on Twitter. That would be stupid to leave those followers or what. No, I tweet. It's like it goes into the black nothing.
Yeah, there's no algorithm. And
if I tweet, I literally maybe get 2 likes on each tweet. It's like, why bother? So I have all these followers, but nobody ever sees anything.
When I also started looking at because my follower count will go up and go down and go up and go down, whether it had nothing really seemed to do with what I was saying or doing on the platform. So I got one of those things that shows you who's doing that, and it's all bots. It's all not real people. It's all porn bots. It's complete.
That's
nonsense.
already started to invade Blue Sky.
Dead internet theory is undefeated, at least on Twitter.
I'm getting porn bots on Blue Sky already. I'll say this, though. If you tried out Blue Sky earlier, like I did, and you're like, oh, I can't use this as my daily social media, whatever, because I'm not getting the news that I want every day, it's like night and day now. Because 24 million or something people are on there now?
It's getting better. They have an incentive to actually...
Yeah, there's a reason now for real accounts to join Blue Sky. And so, anyway, it's way better than it used to be. But anyway, you need to make that decision for yourself. Personally, I don't feel comfortable being on Twitter anymore. I just don't. So that's a personal choice, and everybody gets to make it. So, Toast9.
But remember, if you do leave Twitter, just lock your account down and leave it there. Don't vacate your name.
Because it could be
sold.
sold. Yeah. Because let's be honest, this was all an operation. This was all planned, him to buy Twitter, him to use Twitter to influence the election. The election's over. He's lost his ass on Twitter, but he's going to make his money that he lost on Twitter 1,000 times over because of the tax breaks that he's going to get. So I think he's probably going to sell Twitter. It's already mission accomplished. He's never been elected to any office.
Once he secures the government subsidies he wants to run everything on in the future, especially SpaceX, because that's his favorite thing, I think. I think he will probably get rid of Twitter. So he'll fire sale it or whatever.
Yeah.
After selling off everybody's data to all comers.
Yeah.
So
it's ugly. But anyway, just to let you know,
choose your side, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's probably. I mean that social media has visibly degenerated in the last month. It's shocking.
I went on Facebook,
and I'm not just talking about Twitter.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Facebook, you scroll through, it shows me a lot of space stuff because I like astronomy things.
Yeah.
Every single space-related post now is just flat earthers and weirdos who don't think space is real in the comments. And there's no actual argument in the comments because everyone who knows how the world actually works is just I'm not getting involved. Who wants to talk to these morons?
Well, I mean, we're in a world that celebrates stupidity right now.
And a lot of it is not real. It's engagement trolling or just people.
I went to Facebook a couple days ago, and my whole feed was just inspirational crap from accounts I don't follow. I've never seen before. It's 6 of those, a post from my mom, 5 more of those, a post from someone I kind of remember. I'm like, what is this?
Well, it's also because of the things I'm interested in, they'll give me stupid I like Star Wars, so it keeps trying to feed me weirdo right-wing grifter, the acolyte was woke crap. Bullshit. Yeah. I'm just no, block. Or I like comic books or Marvel stuff, so it keeps showing me all the weirdo Snyder cult people that are Henry Cavill's the only Superman anyone will ever accept. And it's just bro, where are all these fucking lunatics from? What is going on?
Some of it might be fake.
Some of it is. Some of it is just catering to the weirdos. But the weirdos exist.
That's I'm not saying they're fake.
Once you drill down far enough, there is a
real
a rich bed of idiots.
Yeah. Yep. Toast9, thank you. Aussie Brit 2000, thank you guys both for Twitch Prime. AJ the Legend says it will always be Twitter. To me, too.
Yeah. I think Hank Green made a really good point that, like, Twitter is Twitter. Like, it's the thing we use. It's a social media thing. It's a place we all kind of own because we created it by being people who interact with it and talk to it and read it. X is the company that owns it. Twitter, whatever he wants to try and call Twitter, Twitter is still Twitter. His own fucking AI still says tweet.
You're right. Yep.
So don't give me that shit.
Silkshake says, I choose nothing. You choose Sifted, brother. That's what you're using. And it may be a point where if you're a gamer, you may need to come to Sifted, man, for like some place where you can remain sane. Mm-hmm. We're at sifted.net, man. We have strict moderation. We keep all the creeps out. Join us. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, we're like a bastion now. That's why I built Sifted, was to create an oasis for you guys. So come join us, man. We're sitting waiting. And I think that's it for the pre-show stuffs. So again, one more normal show of GameFace next Tuesday, and then the next show we're in a holding pattern trying to figure out when we're going to do it. As we get closer, we'll have better information for you all, and we'll make it happen. Okay, I think we're ready to get into the headlines for GameFace 414, and we have a lot. As I said, we do not have any game reviews in today's show. But we do have a ton of headlines, and we have 2 topics that we're going to discuss. We're going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of PlayStation by ranking all of PlayStation's platforms. And what are there? 8? 7. Yeah. 2 handhelds and 5 consoles. So we'll go from 7 to 1.
Unless you count the VR stuff as their own platform.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. But Matt and I are going to try...
Just assume those are on the bottom.
Yeah. Matt and I are going to try to come to a consensus on the top 7 PlayStation platforms ever. And obviously we're going to take input from you guys as well. It'll be fun, I think, to do. And then we're going to do something that we never have enough time to do on our Game of the Year awards, and that is really drilled down onto how the big 3 have done this year. Looking at their entire software lineup. Now, I realize that our Game of the Year awards, we pick a platform of the year. Usually that's like we get to say a sentence or two, because the other thing about that, Matt, is that it's always at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. And what happens is we've gone overtime, and we're trying to get through the last few awards very quickly. So we're going to drill down hardcore on how all 3 platforms did in 2024 and give you guys some context around that. So we have a great show for you guys. Before we get going, though, as I always say, we are supported 100% at patreon.com/sifted. Patreon just turned over, and we lost a ton of patrons that we can't afford to lose in December, the month where we need the money the most. So if any of you guys have been sitting on the fence for a while and you're like, man, maybe now's the time to finally support those guys, now would be a great time. It really would be a great time. I feel like I've been saying this for forever. I don't know what I need to do or say to get our crew on YouTube off of the bench and to support us. We need it. We need it. I don't know what else to tell you, man. Go look at our Patreon. Like, this doesn't happen for free, man. Like, if you've been watching GameFace for free on YouTube for the last 10 years and you've never, like, helped us in any way, come on, man. Help us out here. And if you don't want to get caught up in a subscription service, just go to donate.sifted.net and just give us like a one-time payment for the year. That would be great too. Everything helps. We'd appreciate it very, very much. We need to have an awesome holiday season too. I'm just going to put that out there. Okay, let's get on with our headlines. The first one, Matt, finally it has happened. And I'm surprised that it took this long for this to happen. But finally this week, we got our first fake Switch 2 mock-up, leak, whatever. Have you watched the footage of this yet?
No, is this the white thing?
This is from China.
Yeah,
yes.
I've seen the pictures. I didn't see a video or anything.
Okay, well, the stills come from the video that we're about to show you right now.
I saw that. It was, I mean, it's nice of them to shoot it on a potato. It's like this. Did you bring a camera from 2003 just for this, or?
So they're claiming, the person who made this video is claiming that this is footage from somewhere in Asia, showing the first look at the new Switch Joy-Con. Also, there's a glimpse, they say, of the actual hardware. And then there's like some mock-ups that they made that are supposed to be representative of what they saw. Matt, to your point, I don't understand why they wouldn't just put up a video where you can see everything. Because it's fake. That's why it's fake.
This is like analog horror.
We curated this yesterday on Sifted. We said the whole time this is fake. Like, don't think that it's real. But some of the other publications out there aren't being as definitive.
Yeah, they're being very. I was a little surprised by some of the gullibility out there.
I mean, some of these outlets are big outlets, man. Like, there is no way in hell that is the Switch 2. I mean, it looks like it was made in paint. Like, what the hell?
And also, like, Nintendo just wouldn't do something that ugly. I'm sorry. I mean, they learned their lesson on the Wii U. Like, what in the world is that?
I don't know. But here they're showing you like how allegedly how the new dock works. So there you go. There's the new dock.
Why would it? There's a reason it covers the screen.
And here's the really cheap, like, them trying to show the UI where
This reminds me of the what was the before the Wii was announced. You remember the helmet thing?
Yeah,
like,
the Nintendo On is what it was called.
On. That's what,
I still have the Nintendo On video. I probably have it on our TriCaster actually. I should have dug it up for today because you're right.
Chad is stuck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the retro modern game. These leaks always have the worst video quality because it's a fake. Exactly. Like, they want it to look blurry.
Well, it's the same reason horror movies take place in the rain at night.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same reason. So let's just go scan forward a little bit into this video because, like, the way they did this too was like there was this stuff interspersed into like a 5-minute video. So there. Oh, let's go back because right there is what they're trying to say. This is them trying to say that, watch, he rips it off of the Switch.
Yeah, he like breaks it off.
Proving that it's magnetic. But if you look at this, it's never touching the Switch.
No.
There you can see there's room between the Switch and the Joy-Con there. Like, it's so obvious. I can't believe any publications even question whether this was real or not.
If there's one thing I've learned from being, I'm not going to say following, being subjected to film Twitter, it's that almost nobody online knows how anything works when it comes to production.
Yeah.
Like, they don't see these little things. They don't understand what they're looking at. They don't know why you clip this or blur this or shoot this way. I'm surprised they didn't shoot it at more of an angle. So
Cinetype says clicks are clicks. Yeah.
True. Don't care if you like the video as long as you clicked on it, I guess.
Yeah, this is supposed to be showing the new magnetic connection on the Joy-Con 2 that's been rumored for a while. So they're really trying to feed into a lot of the stuff that that Nintendo fans might latch onto here.
Even the commentary on some of this stuff, like I saw a bunch of people talking about how, you can't use magnets for that because magnets require power. So when you turn the system off, the Joy-Cons would fall off the system. And I'm like,
our education system is so screwed,
is everyone posting in the Insane Clown Posse?
People are
fucking
just
magnets. How do they work?
Uneducated and stupid. It's really sad, man.
I'm proud of it.
What's happened to our society. Anyway, here they're showing more close-up images of the Joy-Con. Look, here's the thing, man. The
Switch 2 cannot be effectively captured on video. It is too strong.
This might be the most compelling thing that's in this video as far as looking at it and being like, oh, that looks real. But here's the thing. Everything can be 3D printed now.
Right.
Everybody can afford a 3D printer. You can't trust anything.
The flatness of the black parts looks very 3D printed.
To me, this looks crazy 3D printed. Like, and they're trying to show like there's bigger shoulder buttons and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. But look at the analog stick there.
Yeah.
Look at that. That is not an analog stick.
That doesn't move.
No. Again, I can't.
Also, I think it's kind of crooked.
Yeah.
Like it's like offset.
Right.
Yeah. It was funny to me that the biggest response to this was people complaining that it was too, like, oh my god, it's just going to be another Switch. And it's like, yeah, what did you fucking think it was going to be? Like,
well, there's two funny things to that. One, they're assuming that it's real,
right? But people are like, even if it's not real, I'm really afraid that it's just going to be a more powerful Switch. And I'm like, what else do you want? Like, what they want it to be another reinvention of the wheel, like the Switch was.
Why though?
I'm like, no, they found the winning formula. Yeah. They did it. Like you just reiterate on that. Like,
they won already. Yeah.
They're like a bunch of people are like, why is there no actual D-pad? I'm like, because you're supposed to have to use the things as a little control. Like, they're not going to abandon all these gimmicks. And it also has to be all compatible with everything on the previous system.
Yep.
So you can't throw any of that away.
Yep. Or it has to be in addition to, and
or you have to be
messy.
compatible with the old Joy-Cons at the very least. And
that's the other thing that people were saying about this is that it shows some kind of new IR camera. I didn't notice that in any of the footage.
That's where some of those red things are circled, and I'm like, you're circling just the bottom of the controller. There's nothing there. They're saying it was like it had like light gun capability or something, and I'm like, I don't know what you're supposed to be looking at.
Technically, IR should work that way.
Theoretically, yeah.
You got to remember the old Joy-Con have IR in them as well.
Yeah, you're basically doing that.
Most of the time, with the pointers. So anyway, we'll keep you abreast of all this stuff as it breaks. This is going to get worse, by the way. This is the first one.
Well, there's another leak this morning. This one looked maybe pretty...
With the cases and stuff?
The cases. But I love that like it was a case and like a tempered glass screen protector. And I'm like, y'all are fucking pathetic. Like the fact that you're excited to see a screen protector of the unannounced... Like, come on, people. Get a life. Like,
so this morning, out of China...
someone who does this 3 hours a week. Get a life.
Yeah.
Like it's a screen protector. Like, we might be able to figure out what the shape of the screen... Rectangular! It's rectangular! I promise you it's rectangular.
Remember the mock-ups for the Switch before it came out? It had this weird, like, football... It was, like, shaped like a football?
Yeah,
And then the sticks were actually over the screen. The screen came out around the analog sticks. Remember that fake crap? Yeah. So anyway, this is going to get way worse. This is the first
probably
one.
weirder.
And weirder, yeah. More experimental. I like this stuff. It's kind of interesting watching this stuff happen. So, yeah, we're going to see a bunch of these. Well, the ones that are at least interesting we'll bring here on the show to show you guys. And they'll always be curated at SIFTD.net.
Yeah, it's too bad that Nintendo On was done so early, because you do that today, and like you could like that tech isn't non-existent.
Right.
Like you wouldn't believe it in the wake of the Switch, because obviously the Switch 2 is just going to be another Switch. Also, people are trying to guess the name. Like one of the cases supposedly says Nintendo Switch 2 on it. It's hard to tell if that is actually on the case is 3D printed,
or if they just put it's just Photoshop.
I have a hard time believing they're going to call it the Switch 2.
Yeah,
like Nintendo has never done that.
Yeah,
Nintendo has never just
put
a higher number on the system. Wii 2 was where it really would have made the most sense, because then you got Me Too, and like you can do something with that as opposed to Wii U. What the fuck does that mean?
I'll never understand it.
But my money remains on Super Nintendo Switch. Like, you're out of your mind if you don't call it that.
Yep, we'll see. But to Matt's point, today a bunch of stuff leaked out of China where they're already manufacturing cases for Switch 2 and the screen protectors, and they're size to the exact leaked specs. Look, you can manufacture something in China in like 4 days. Like, they could just be trying to get that out there. They may not know at all whether that's the actual size. I mean, there is a chance that they know somebody that is working on the manufacturing line in China for the console. There's a chance.
Yeah, but there's still like, if they were mass producing the systems, we'd know about it by now.
And
there are people who claim we do know about it, but I haven't seen anything that actually has any credibility to it.
Yeah, me either.
And the main reason people are desperately trying to convince themselves it's already in mass production is because that means it's coming out earlier than
instead of like end of next year.
Yeah, but I will be pretty shocked if we have our hands on this thing before September.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think it's going to be...
There are people still saying March, April, and I'm like, no.
I'm pretty confident it's going to be after June.
I would certainly say June is your earliest at this point.
Yep. So we'll see. But again, more of this stuff's going to be coming out. Also, and it should be creative and funny and
remember,
cool.
they don't have a reason to rush in on this one. Like, the Switch happened fast because the Wii U was on fire and about to run into a building.
Yeah.
They don't have to. They're not under any pressure at this point.
Yeah.
Like, they can do this however they want.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of it will have to do with software, and we'll look at the software for Switch from 2024 a little later in the show, and that might provide a little bit of a hint, maybe. I'm just saying. I'm just teasing a little bit there.
They better have something, because Jesus, like the remake flurry has got to be in preparation for the actual.
It's kind of over now.
Has to.
I mean, there's not much left to remake and remaster.
Well, we don't know it. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Unless there better be some real reveals coming up in the Game Awards and maybe a director, because the Fantasy League is going to be basically impossible to put together at this point.
Yeah.
Because we don't know anything
as far as like what's coming out.
Sony stuff, we don't know anything except Ghost of Yotei. We don't know anything about Nintendo. Period. We don't know really. I mean, we know Avowed and a couple things, a bunch of stuff in February, but in terms of the rest of the year, no one's announced anything.
We may end up drafting teams that all come out before like March.
Yeah,
it's because it's obviously it's scary to draft a game you're not sure.
It's going to be hard to find 24 games. We need 24 games.
I know.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if there are 24 games that I'd want on a fantasy team that are announced.
I think
right
next
now.
year's looking pretty good, though. I will also say
Probably, but in terms of like things I hope come out, 100%. In terms of things I know well enough to put on the fantasy team, that's a different question.
No, you're right. You're right. I will say, I think 2024 is a little bit better than people think. And again, when we start looking at all the games that came out here a little later on in the show, you'll see that maybe...
I thought it was a fine year.
Yeah, it's not as bad as people
It's not full
thought.
of like bangers in terms of like the AAA stuff that really like blew the doors off, but there was a lot of good indie stuff. There was a lot, some of the stuff we didn't even talk about because I didn't find out about until I didn't know UFO 50 until like a month after it came out, and there's a lot of stuff. It just wasn't the stuff you put up on the sizzle reel. Yep,
not a lot of big sequels to big franchises, I guess is the best way you could put that. So anyway, yeah, I mean, we're going to get more of these as time goes on, and I think they're going to get more and more interesting and more creative as we go. And it'll be fun, us sitting here trying to figure out whether they're real or not. And this was pretty obvious, but I think for future ones, we'll get you guys involved a little bit more and get your feedback on whether you guys think they're real or fake. This was obvious to me anyway. So.
Well, eventually we might get a few that are in focus, so then we'll see.
That changes things a little bit. And you would think with like 3D printing that they wouldn't have to make these things blurry anymore.
I mean, I think it feels like it was just going to be too obvious.
Right. Because they just didn't have the time to hack it all together, It's
either that or shoot it from like across the street through a window. That would have been better. My neighbor works for Nintendo and he brought home a prototype Switch 2 and I'm shooting it on an Apple iPhone 3 across the street through his living room window. Do that one next.
I mean, that video we just watched wasn't too far away from that. Let's be honest. Okay, well, let's move on to our next topic in headlines. Next up, there was a study that was released this week from Media Research that claims that gamers, we spend more time watching video about video games than actually playing video games. Now, to be fair, the data was like 7 hours a week for watching and like 6 hours a week for playing, so it was close, but still... According to research, you guys are watching stuff about video games more than you're actually playing the video game.
I'd like to see that broken down by age.
Now, I'm not going to complain, because obviously that's good for us. Like, we want you guys watching, like, our streams and all our content and things like that. Ashes on the Hourglass asked if they're counting podcasts. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Yeah. So
that's not video, though.
Some of them aren't. Ours is, obviously. Yeah. I mean, most of the big ones are. They're not like ours where they have a lot of B-roll.
I mean, a lot of my video consumption is parallel to playing. Mm-hmm. You know, I watch
listening to podcasts.
I watched the 12-hour Elder Scrolls Oblivion analysis video, but I did it while playing something.
Yeah,
you know, I wasn't just sitting there staring at Oblivion footage for 12 hours.
Yeah,
I already did that. It's called playing Oblivion.
Yeah.
But yeah, with all these like crazy long form videos and all the live stream twitching all the time, but like that makes sense. Like that content's there for you all the time. You can't always afford a new video game to play, or you don't always want to play a video game.
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of comments from our viewers that say things like, I live vicariously through you guys. After listening to you guys talk about a game, like, a lot of times I feel like I even need to play it because you guys do such a good job describing it. Some people just can't afford to buy every game, and it's not their job to do that. So a lot of times they're like, well, I'll listen to Matt and Shane talk about it, and that's good enough for me in a lot of cases.
Fire Native. My last game I played was Fallout 76 with 2,155 hours.
Why?
A lot of people like Fallout 76.
Wow. That's insane. You have Gamefly. Okay. But still, you're still saying you don't play many games, and the only game that you're playing is Fallout 76.
Lifestyle games.
I guess. That's pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think most people at this point, most people who are pop culture folks like us who kind of consume a lot of pop culture media, I think most of us multitask now. Like, I'm never... Only when I play single-player games do I play games with, out a podcast or something. If I'm playing multiplayer games, Call of Duty, Rocket League, anything like that, I have a podcast going in the background while I play. Even some single-player games, if they're not really story-driven, I'll listen to podcasts sometimes.
Anytime I'm playing an open-world game and it's like, okay, time to do open-world cleanup, I turn on videos or podcasts for that.
Do you think this is good for the industry, though? Because people aren't buying the games if they're not playing them.
I don't think one really... is related to the other.
No.
No.
You think people watching podcasts where we show games or watching Let's Plays? You don't think that affects sales at all? You
I
think
mean,
they ever
I think it affects sales in the sense that people are probably looking at these things to decide if they want the game, but that's not a bad, I guess it's a bad thing if you want people to mindlessly buy everything without researching them, but like I don't think it's a bad thing for the consumers.
Oh yeah, for consumers it's great, but for the industry, like
I don't give a shit about the industry.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I mean you kind of have to, because without the money in the industry, there's no money that trickles down to us and blah blah blah.
Well, I don't believe in that anyway, trickle down shit. But I mean, I know we're remoras on the back of the giant shark of the industry. I get it, but like, it's up to the industry to make things worth buying.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that 1,000%.
So I don't think having more video and more stuff available for people to see and watch and know whether they want to do. There's more information for the consumer. I don't have a problem with that.
I agree. But I would say that like if YouTube didn't exist or Twitch didn't exist, I think the industry would be selling more video games.
Oh, I mean, certainly. I mean, in the sense that, like, I remember back in the day. I mean,
getting burnt
somewhat, but it's like. It's the video watching thing has kind of taken the place of the rental market, right? Like,
no, you're right.
That was what we used to do. Was we'd rent the thing from Blockbuster to see if it sucked or not. And if it didn't, maybe one of us would buy it, and then all of us would play it at their house, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays you can't really do that. So the equivalent is to watch somebody play it on YouTube, or Twitch.
The other thing
which I think is entirely fair.
The other thing to keep in mind is like we used to get burnt. Like you used to have to buy games based upon like a little blurb in a magazine.
Half my fucking Game Gear library is that.
Yeah, or based upon screenshots on the back of the box. And if you keep getting burned, then it would stand to reason that over time, maybe you stop buying video games. 100%. So actually, there is an argument to be made that maybe Let's Plays and Twitch and shows like this actually maybe it's either flat or maybe actually help sales. So I don't know if anyone will ever do that study. It would be fascinating to read it if they ever did. But I don't think we've ever had that data. But anyway... I really don't care if you guys are playing games more or watching video around video games. It's my job to create content that you guys want to watch. So maybe this is actually like a little pat on the back to people, to content creators, saying like, look, you guys are making good enough content that I would sometimes prefer to watch a game in your content than play it myself. So I have no problem with it at all. If that's you, if you're watching GameFace 3 hours a week and you're only playing games a couple hours a week, totally cool with it. So anyway, just some interesting data, I think. And again, that information comes from Media Research. Next up, we got a scam, Matt. We got a scam going on. And the crazy part about it...
Did we talk about this thing before?
We have never, actually.
I thought we talked about some PC rental thing that was rising up.
We didn't.
We definitely meant... I don't know if it was this one, but we talked about some place that was going to start renting gaming PCs through the mail.
Yeah, it wasn't a topic in the show. It was a tangent that we went off on in one of our episodes where we mentioned this. And this is the company. This company is called NZXT, and they rent you gaming PCs. And in some cases, they're like $270 a month to rent some of these gaming PCs. And YouTube channel, Gamers Nexus, had a big marketing program set up with these guys for like $25,000 or whatever. And so they started really investigating them to see if, they felt comfortable recommending them to their viewers, which is awesome that Gamers Nexus did that they actually cared about their viewers enough to do it. We do this kind of stuff. You don't see it a lot on YouTube, but props to Gamers Nexus for caring about their integrity. And they started digging into it, and they found that this company is literally just one gigantic scam. They do everything in the book to try to rip off their customers. They will swap in cheaper parts, so they will advertise a PC to have certain specs, and then when they send you the PC, it actually doesn't have the parts in it that it's supposed to have, and they just assume that most people aren't going to check, and they're just going to play the PC and not see if the actual parts in it are what they're actually paying for. They would swap in, or they publish fake benchmarks on their website for their PCs. So they got a couple PCs from this company and tested them, and they do not live up to the benchmark ratings that they advertise on their website. As I mentioned, their rental prices are bonkers. Literally, for a decent gaming PC, it's like $260 a month, and you're never putting any money towards actually owning that PC. It is straight rental. They did the math, and they figured out that for the average gaming PC, if you rented it for 5 years, you're going to spend like $12,000 on the gaming PC if you were to rent it the entire time. And at the end of it, you have nothing to show for it whatsoever. They also bait and switch pricing. So they'll say, okay, you're going to get this rig for this amount of money. And then whenever they go to send the rig out, they will send a lower powered rig out to their customer. They literally have found every conceivable way to try to rip off their customers. First of all, Matt, who would ever do this? Who would ever pay $260 to rent a gaming PC?
I mean, if you can't afford $4,000 for one.
But why wouldn't you just get like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X then?
Because they don't have all the games you want on PC.
Yeah.
If you want to play like League of Legends or something.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put it to you this way.
You probably don't need a high-end rig for that.
Yeah. When I was doing pre-production for this episode, and I was like, okay, we're going to look at the big three in 2024. And I was like, well, you know what? Let's see if maybe we should include PC in this as well. And so I started looking at PC exclusives for 2024. First of all, it's very hard to find that information. I spent like 40 minutes trying to find a list online of PC exclusive games that came out this year, like big ones. I could not find it. And then finally when I did, I was like, oh, there aren't that many. And they're not lots of indies.
A lot of indies. The big ones, I mean, the big ones are not things that maybe you wouldn't consider big with a capital B. But you've done, like Sins of a Solar Empire 2, and there's a lot of MMOs and like stuff like that. I'm trying to think.
Even like a lot of PC-centric...
Age of Empires stuff, although some of that's on Xbox.
See, that's the thing. Like, even stuff that used to be kept on PC, it's now coming to consoles day and date. Stuff like Diablo 4 and things like that. Like, it's just even... isometric action RPGs, RTS, all that stuff.
Path of Exile.
Yeah.
That's not coming. That's not on the console, is it?
It is,
it on PS5?
Path of Exile 2, yeah. It's for everything. Yep.
Yeah,
so
once Diablo figured out how to do a controller with that genre, you really didn't have an excuse anymore, I guess.
Even 4X strategy games, everything's coming out on console day and date now. So it's really hard to find stuff that's only coming out on PC first, other than indie games. A lot of indie games.
And
if
something's a hit on PC, it inevitably comes to console pretty soon because that's where the money is.
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, stay far away from NZXT. No matter how desperate you are for a gaming rig, do not go to NZXT. And you want to know what blew my mind the most about this, Matt? Is that this company has been around for a really long time. Like 8 years.
Well, their main thing is they are a marketing company for PC parts.
Right, yeah.
And they decided to start this business on the side because I guess they saw the scam available.
I guess. But again, do not work with NZXT. Say no. If we have curated the investigative piece that Gaming Nexus did, Gamers Nexus, it is on Sifted right now if you want to check it out. It is an hour long. So we're here to give you the 5 minutes Crib Notes version. They did their homework. They did the legwork. And I wouldn't be here talking about this if I did not already vet the work that they did and checked out their report. And they went above and beyond a million times with their investigation of this. So anyway, stay away from NZXT gaming PCs. They're insanely priced. You're not getting what you're paying for. And ultimately, no matter what, you're way overpaying for what you're getting. Just save your money and buy yourself a PC. Like, over this last week, for Black Friday deals, you could get like a pre-built gaming PC for like $700 or $800. And sure, the graphics card in it sucks, and the CPU probably isn't very good and has slow RAM or whatever, but you're getting a lot of the core pieces of a PC for very cheap. So your case and your power supply and a bunch of other stuff, your motherboard, stuff like that, you can move forward into a more powerful machine. You can buy a new CPU when you can afford it. You can buy a new GPU when you can afford it and just install them in that PC. There's a lot of ways to get yourself a gaming PC without getting ripped off by NZXT. And again, I would just recommend just saving your money. If you really want a gaming PC, just do what I do.
It's all really nice B-roll, though.
Yeah. It's very slick.
Yeah.
It's like if you go and check out their YouTube channel and all their videos, all their stuff is very well produced, very professional. It's very easy to see how somebody could go there and be like, this looks legit, and rent a gaming PC. And then 3 months later, you're screwed. Like, a lot of times their plans are like, oh, and we'll upgrade your machine as time goes on. We'll send you a new CPU and blah, blah, blah. And that's why I have those, like, how-to videos on how to install stuff for their customers. But then, like, the plan doesn't work the way it was supposed to. Like, you're supposed to get, like, an i7 in 9 months, and instead you get an i5 or whatever. Like, it's just shady AF. Again, if you want to know the whole story, you can find it on their YouTube channel at Gamers Nexus, or you can go and watch it at SIFTD.net. We have it curated there as well. But anyway, great job by them investigating this. Also, by the way, they cost themselves $25,000. They dropped the sponsorship after they found this out. So, again, props to them. You don't see editorial integrity like this on YouTube very often, so you should support channels that actually do it. And again, that's Gamers Nexus if you want to go and subscribe to their channel. Next up, we talked about Stalker 2 last week. We reviewed the game here on the show. And I do want to say that I went back and went to that same area where I was having problems just yesterday. I went to do it. And the game has been patched twice since then. And none of their problems are there. Mm-hmm. They're all gone. There's no stopping while you're running. There's no health bar getting chopped down 80%. There's no anomaly stuff happening inside the buildings anymore. None of it. It's all gone. That thing that I tried probably 20 times before I gave up, I finished it on my second try. Now that they've patched the game.
What was it? I haven't played it too much, but I did. The fire hitboxes make a lot more sense now after the patch, and it feels like it doesn't spawn infinite dogs anymore.
Oh, that's the other. That's why I was able to finish that mission. It used to be when I would shoot the target in the building, the room would just flood with dogs, and you just die instantly. That doesn't happen anymore. In fact, I killed that guy, and finally I realized how the mission was supposed to play out.
Yeah, the two things I forgot to mention last week are the fact that it has that AI whatever system that's supposed to like intelligently spawn characters or like incidents around it. Mostly what it does is spawn things behind you in very inconvenient times. And the other thing is, it doesn't save my inverted Y setting. Every time I load the game up, I have to reset that option again. And I do not understand. I hit the thing to save the options. I do it in the main menu. I do it in the game. I do it in both. I quit to the menu, then do it again. Like I don't understand how in the year of our Lord, 2024, you are not saving my fucking options properly.
Well, I'll say this. They've issued 2 patches since the last time we were here talking to you folks. So in a week, they've issued 2 patches. They are going after it. They're trying to fix it. But the game is just so busted. Like, even now, I would recommend that you just wait like a month or 2 to play it when they get all the stuff sorted out. But the reason
Vincent says the AI thing is broken and won't be advertised again until it's fixed.
But anyway, the reason...
And MPG, that my first video game was not a flight simulator. I play inverted Y because I started on GoldenEye with console analog sticks.
A lot of people are that way.
Why.
Yeah.
That's entirely why.
Yep. Well, the reason we're talking about Stalker 2 again this week, other than to let you know that they have updated it a couple times already, is because Russia has started sending out propaganda claiming that Stalker 2 is a recruitment tool for Ukraine to stop Russia's invasion.
So they see themselves in the infinitely spawning zombie dogs, is what you're telling me?
I don't know. But they have been sending emails about this to the press.
Nothing about this game makes me want to go to Ukraine, just so you know. Like, none of this makes me like, oh, I want to do that. Like, what are you fucking talking about?
It's Russia. It's propaganda. Yeah. They've been sending emails to the press trying to convince the press to run stories claiming that this video game is recruiting soldiers for Ukraine. It's just bonkers.
Seems like a stretch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll say this.
Feels like maybe they haven't played it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I'll say one thing. It makes me never want to go to Russia because it's like if
I think that was on my list of guidelines
never go anyway.
Before this.
Yeah.
It was years and years ago. My landlord at my old apartment was I think he said he was Russian, but I think he was from Ukraine or one of the Georgia, one of the satellite nations that broke away after the Soviet Union collapsed. But at some point, I mentioned to him and his wife that I was thinking about, like, I would like to see Moscow. I'd like to. This is back like the aughts, back 20 years ago almost. And he just sort of was quiet and looked at me and just said, "Be careful."
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, damn."
Maybe I don't want to go.
Maybe I'll change my mind on that one.
My wife wants to go. I have no interest in going
at this
at
point,
all.
Forget it.
I'm like, nope. We're gonna have to pick a different spot. I'm not going to Russia. Definitely not. Definitely not right now. Cinetyke says, LOL at the Russian propaganda machine. What year is this? I mean, when you're invading another country.
It's any year. Believe me. It never stopped.
It's funny. So we've started running shorts on our YouTube channel. And one of the shorts was why you should buy Stalker 2. Because we chop up like dossier and it's like 10 games. And so we have 10 segments from that or whatever. And I could not believe the comment. So there's a line in it that says, because Russia is invading Ukraine for no good reason. And, oh my God, there are crazy freaking people out there. I couldn't believe it. The deluge. The mistake I made was I used the hashtag Ukraine. And it just brought all the psychos from like Russia or the bots or whatever.
Bots, yeah.
Oh my God. It's terrifying, Matt, what is going on out there. It is terrifying what is happening. Like, you thought after the election or whatever, a lot of this stuff was going to go away. Nope.
No, certainly that wasn't going to go
away.
away.
The Ukraine part of it. Yeah, not going away. I just thought the Russian bots might cool it finally.
No.
Now that Putin got who he wanted installed.
When you achieve victory, you do not stop moving forward.
Yeah, I guess that's the way to look at it. So anyway, as if the people who worked on this game didn't have enough to worry about already, now they have to worry about Russia sending out press releases to the press about how their video game is recruiting soldiers. I'm curious. I never got to read the email. I am curious, like, how they think that's happening. Do they think that, like, people are seeing how terrible Russia is because it's all radiated from Chernobyl? And they're like, oh, I don't want to go to Russia. I want to go to Ukraine.
But that's not Russia. That's Ukraine.
No, I know. It's insane.
Like, there's no Russian anything.
I know.
I mean, obviously, there are some parallels thematically. I think,
Yeah.
like, Russian, Soviet mismanagement is largely responsible for what happened at Chernobyl. But, like, I don't understand what, I having actually played the game, I'm like, at no point it was like, well, those giant meat monsters that took 14 clips to kill are clearly Russian. Like, that's not, I don't understand what, I mean, but again, it's propaganda. It doesn't have to make any sense. All they have to do is reinforce the beliefs of the people that you're talking about who are commenting on that clip.
Xenoxis says, tourism in Russia is closed indefinitely, especially if you're American. Too bad. Moscow and Petersburg are superb. I mean, in some other alternate universe, I would like to go to Moscow.
Yeah, the time to do that was in kind of the mid to late 90s.
And it's not anymore. Yeah. Then Mighty Pony Girl says, well, remember, Russia has been doing the whole arrest and hold American citizens to get concessions and trade thing for a while now. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going. Don't worry, I'm not going. My wife would have to drag my cold, dead body to Russia. That's the last place on planet Earth I want to go right now. And she also says, didn't the Stalker 2 devs famously post about how they were still trying to develop the game during the war? Yes, they split up the team, and like some of them stayed in Ukraine, some of them left. Yeah.
It's just, they're moving against it because, it's kind of a Ukraine success story in having gotten this thing done in the middle of all the turmoil. And, it's a very Ukrainian game. Like, there's a lot. My friend who is from Ukraine, she's been sending me all these, like, little things about, like, the Ukrainian, like, little cultural things that are in the game. Apparently, there are a bunch of podcasts in Ukrainian that you can hear on the radio and various things. Like,
wow.
They don't subtitle them for some reason, but she's like, oh, yeah, there's a bunch of weird, like, actual real-life podcasts there. And I think some of the podcasts might be actually talking about the war in Russia, the invasion.
Yeah.
But they're just playing them without context, so they could theoretically be about the zone.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
I see. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So there is some real world, but like if you don't speak or understand Ukrainian, you may not understand any of that.
Yeah.
It's just, there's a war going on. Of course they're going to throw their own spin on it. Just don't believe any of it.
Because it's Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once again, we can just say F Russia, F Putin. You can say it all day, every day. He'll give you another reason to do it pretty much every single day. So it really sucks that that's happening to them, but I think most people realize that it's just more Russian propaganda. Although a lot of people won't, because let's be honest, it's worked on a lot of Americans' Russian propaganda, so who knows? But it's pretty disgusting, but just add it to the pile of all the crap that Russia and Putin has done over the last several years. So there you go. Stalker 2, the development team, once again, having to deal with a bunch of BS. Next up, here's something that I found that was kind of crazy, is that the NASCAR license was basically sold to iRacing. Matt?
Oh, well, there it is. You're going out of order.
Oh, am I?
The NASCAR thing's the last thing.
I have it twice in here. Okay, you know what? Let's skip that for now. We'll come back to it in a minute. But that's a crazy story that we're going to get to here in a minute.
I'm like, what's crazy about Yoshida? Like, okay.
No, yeah, I totally missed that story. Or wait, did I?
On my thing, it goes from the Stalker 2 thing to Shuhei Yoshida leaving PlayStation.
Oh, yeah, I think I did a copy and paste error in mine for whatever reason. Oh, here's why. I'm looking at my notes instead of the rundown. That's why. So anyway, yes, it is the 30th anniversary of PlayStation, and we're going to celebrate that here on GameFace 414 here in a little bit.
But meanwhile, Shuhei Yoshida's like, I'm out, bitches. Like,
yeah.
Done.
And so on the 31st anniversary of him working at Sony, Shuhei Yoshida has left PlayStation. Now, I will say this: it's like
served his time. Let's be honest.
He has. And unfortunately, I do not have any B-roll of Shuhei. I hope you guys remember what he looks like. But he is leaving, and that is a huge loss for PlayStation. In my opinion, Shuhei was the heart and soul of PlayStation. Having dealt with this company and Sony for 3 decades now, a lot of the people that have worked there, like, they do their jobs. They're good people or whatever. They're polite. I never build a human connection with most of the people that worked at PlayStation. I'm sorry if you're watching this right now. I'm just being honest. I always felt like
more near fist fights than human connections.
I always felt like they always kept people at a distance.
They were a very cold corporate entity.
And like, no matter how long I knew them or how many situations I was in with these people, because it's not like 1 year I went to Coachella with PlayStation. They had an event there, and there was actual work that had to be done. That was for like we were there for like a day and a half, where we did stuff with PlayStation, and then after then we went to Coachella for the 3rd day or whatever. And like, when you do stuff like that with people, you normally create like a bond. And with the PlayStation people, nothing, man. Like, we literally hung out and got hammered at Coachella, and I'm like, here's the breakthrough. Finally, the PlayStation PR people are going to act like normal people. No, they still couldn't. And even after that, it was like it had never happened. I'd be like, hey, remember Coachella when okay, well, what time are you going to be here for this appointment? I'm like, really? Okay. But that's kind of the way PlayStation always was. And Shuhei was the antithesis of that. He was the nicest. For example, the day I left Game Trailers, I got a DM from him on Twitter. I got an email from him saying, I've followed your work all this time. I never had a chance to like really get to hang out with you. I regret that. Like, let me know where you're going. Again, now that when I did go to SIFTD, I sent him an email about it. I never heard back from him. But anyway, he was he was a human being. And he was the soul of that company. All the games that were coming out of their Tokyo studio, he did almost all of that. Like, he was the one who got those, like, some might say he's the guy who, allowed some of their games to be in development for 10 years. I mean, let's be honest.
Somebody who really wanted to play The Last Guardian.
Right. I mean, he was partially responsible for the fact that that game stayed alive. Some people may like it for that. Some people may say that was a really dumb decision, but
I mean, they're still here.
He was the connection for the fans. He was the person that the fans could talk to, and he was on Twitter, and he would interact with people, and at least they felt like their message was getting to somebody important that might actually carry that message to people that matter. Just a great guy. Remember the video that he did with Adam Boyes where they're like, this is how you share PlayStation games? And he just handed a game to Adam Boyes. You may remember him from that.
I only met him once, I think.
Yeah.
I produced an interview that Dan Shu did with him at E3 when it was out in Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm.
Nice dude. I just didn't have time to pay a whole lot of attention to what was going on.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the most chaotic E3s of all time.
Yeah.
But by one of the easiest shoots we did. That's where he was all ready to go.
I think this is,
and you would not, and also of course obviously he had a long existing relationship with Dan, and like, man, that dude walked in the room, and I we've done tons of interviews with Japanese businessmen and executives. You would never know this guy was so high up.
Oh no!
In the in the Sony world,
he was like the head of Worldwide Studios for a while.
It was like he had the same kind of Reggie warmth.
Yeah,
it was that kind of thing.
And I think the timing's perfect for him because it's the 30th anniversary of PlayStation. He's been there for 31 years, and I also feel like he kind of just launched his opus. I mean, him and his team are kind of the people who corral the Japanese development at PlayStation, and Astro Bot just came out. Not only is it an amazing 3D platformer, one of the best 3D platformers I've ever played, it also is this insane celebration of everything PlayStation. I cannot think of a better way for him to leave PlayStation, and I hope not leave the industry, but it does kind of seem like he's just going to disappear. Which is disappointing.
I mean, he served his time.
Yeah.
He can't work forever.
Yeah,
he shouldn't work forever.
I just hate seeing people like that leave the industry. Good people that you can connect with on a different level than like, hey, I need review code for this game. Can you give it to me or not? If not, I need to go find... Like, he's not transactional. He's a human being, and I we miss that at PlayStation, and in all honesty, there's a lot of that in the industry in general, because it is a job. A lot of people forget that it's a job where you do job stuff. It's not just all fun and games as a lot of people think. So anyway, much respect, much love to Shuhei Yoshida. What an amazing job you've done. I just, if he were here, I would just say, I want you to know that it wasn't unnoticed by a lot of people in the press how different he was and how important he was to PlayStation. So it's a shame to see him go, but he's been there for 31 years. As Matt said, he has definitely done his time. My guess is
Vincent says he's not leaving the industry, he says.
Oh, that's even crazier. So what's he going to do?
My guess would be whatever he wants.
I mean, to be fair, he was forced out a little bit. Like, he was the head of Worldwide Studios, and one day he was just, like, demoted, basically. Mm-hmm. And he's never really, like, reascended to a big post since then.
There's an argument to be, I mean, I don't know how true it is, but there's an argument to be made that they window desked him,
mm-hmm.
which is the term, or a vague version of the term for when in Japan you don't fire someone who's been there forever. You put them in a place where they're going to be bored and leave.
It's like Office Space. Put them down in the basement.
Pretty much.
With the stapler.
Like, it probably wasn't as undesirable
right.
as Milton, but it's that kind of thing where it's like, oh, you can just be, we're not going to tell you to leave, but, like, we're not going to make your life more interesting, basically.
It seems like they would trot him out for, like, fan-focused stuff, packs and things like that. Mm-hmm. Like, every once in a while he'd appear in a video talking about, like, Astrobot.
Honestly, when they announced this, I was a little surprised that he was still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just hadn't...
Because they hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah, just hadn't been mentioned in a while.
Yeah. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up, because trust me, there will be tons of people wanting to hire him and give him a job, because everybody who comes into contact with him...
Vince is probably right. He's probably the latest Japanese dev to be snapped up by China.
That could be, too. Working at Tencent or something like that. Yep, it does seem
a lot of that going around.
It seems that way. Yep, and we're going to talk about Tencent here in a minute, and it's not flattering, to say the least. So anyway... Shuhei, if you are watching this, I don't know if you are, but if you are, much respect, man. What an amazing job you did while you were at PlayStation. I wish there were more people like you working at PlayStation. Next up, Mortal Kombat 1. I felt like at one point was kind of like the model for how to do post-launch DLC. Maybe not just as a fighting game, but like in games in general. Like, it's managed to support these games in some cases like 2 years after they release. But we got word this week that NetherRealm and Warner Brothers are considering canceling all the rest of Mortal Kombat 1's DLC, including a bunch of characters and another combat pack, because the DLC for it so far has sold so poorly. Mm-hmm. And
this game has just fizzled.
It has
in the post launch. Just
why
remarkable.
do you think that is? Other than it being MK, which is, its own beast and everything.
Yeah, I mean, from what I haven't actually played it all that much. From what I've seen, it just didn't catch on in the tournament world, in the FGC like fighting game area, because people just don't like the new system very much.
Interesting.
People like the last one more.
Really?
The whatever you call it, the team,
being able to call in teammates,
tag-in system. Like, people just don't think that's as interesting. There was a whole long period where were very clearly dominant characters, and there was no way out of it. Mm-hmm. Which was, I mean, every MK has that. Like, you had the Infinite Cabal combo problem for a while.
The juggles,
Kung Lao had that issue with, I think, 11 or 10 at one point. I did that to some of my friends at one point, and at one point one turns to me and was like, "You can't possibly think this is fun for anybody." I was like, "Nah, you're right. I'm just being a dick." But yeah, from what I've seen, like, even the diehard MK people just sort of don't think this one is very good.
Yeah, I thought the actual characters that they've been releasing have been fairly interesting.
Are solid, yeah. I don't think anybody has a problem with the lineup. I mean, I think it is weird that you release so many similar characters, like Homelander and Omni-Man
are way too similar. They are, yeah. But, I mean, they had so many others, and they just released, like, a really good one. They just released Ghostface from the Scream films, and they actually used the character in the same way the film does, meaning you didn't know who was behind the mask, and as it turns out, it was an MK character behind the mask, which is really freaking cool. Like, it shows that NetherRealm and Warner Brothers are thinking very hard about this stuff, and yet, it wasn't good enough. Matt, it almost feels to me like we're starting to see a reverse on post-launch support for a lot of stuff. a lot of big games that you normally would expect to get DLC from, they're like, nope, we're not doing that. We're going to just start on our next game because that's what we want to do.
Who's done that other than Dragon Age?
Dragon Age Veilguard.
Dragon Age.
Yeah.
And that's not for that. That's because they don't think they're going to be around in 3 months.
Really?
I don't. I'll be a little surprised if BioWare is still here after the end of the financial year.
Wow.
EA's been looking for a way to get rid of them for 10 years.
Wow.
We all know that. Like, the only reason they're still here is because Inquisition accidentally sold 10 million copies and won a bunch of Game of the Year awards. And they were like, oh, the optics on that wouldn't be very good. Like, from what I heard, the paperwork was signed to shut them down in 2014. And Inquisition was such a big hit that they was like, oh, I guess we got to stick with this. Nowadays, you know what? Nowadays, I feel like if that happened today, if Inquisition came out now, sold 10 million copies and won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, I feel like EA would still shut them down. I feel like that would still happen today. I don't think all these corporate people care about optics anymore.
Well, that also, by the way, the DLC thing also just happened with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's another big game that you would expect to get DLC from, that they're like, nope, we're not going to do it. We're just going to the next game. Because they did a bunch of DLC for the first remake. Yeah.
Other than the big Yuffie thing? Because that felt like a re-release.
Well, they did like 2 small things and then the big Yuffie release.
Yeah, which then get put out as its own SKU called Intergrade or something. Intergrade, yeah. Which is also an excuse to put it on other platforms. I wonder what they'll do with that in terms of, because eventually Rebirth's going to come to other platforms, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you gonna,
especially since that hasn't sold very well.
Yeah, you're not going to add anything to that? That's interesting.
Yeah. And
I guess 16 didn't really get anything, did it?
No. I don't remember, actually.
I
don't think 16 did get DLC.
I don't remember it.
I don't remember it either. I don't know. I think maybe it did, actually. Silkshank says they only did the Yuffie stuff, and that's so he knew she was in Rebirth for noobs like
16
me.
had 2 DLC packs.
Okay.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought it did. Yeah. But again, they're not doing it for Rebirth because they want to move on to the third part. So it does feel like there's a little bit of a shift going on here.
I don't think that's relevant here. Some of this is because it's hard to split the competitive user base. Like DLC character packs have always been a little... in fighting games, just because you
can see right there. That's a pretty good lineup of DLC.
Yeah, it's a solid lineup, and you
it didn't do anything.
Once you're into the DLC weeds, you're talking about like hardcore people, and the numbers of people who whine about woke and whine about all that shit can actually affect the number of sales. And a bunch of people hated that. A bunch of these idiots hated that Cyrax and Sector are girls now, and like. It's all very stupid.
I never knew if they were male or female in the first place, to be honest.
They've usually been one of the other. There was a whole controversy when Cyrax was black for a bunch of the games.
Right.
Because oh my god, the guy under a mask is in the same color as me. Everything is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm adding Terminate the T-1000, voiced by Robert Patrick. That's fucking great. Like who doesn't like all that stuff's really cool.
Erebus Jones says...
I didn't buy it, to be fair. I'm part of the problem. But I just, I bounced off MK1 pretty hard. I didn't even finish the campaign fully.
Oh, I did.
I certainly didn't buy the story DLC.
Yeah.
Which apparently is one of the big reasons they're backing off, is that
a big commitment and it didn't sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can understand that. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. I don't care about DLC. I really don't.
I think it was too soon.
For what? A new MK?
The story DLC.
Oh, gotcha.
I think the last one did it better, where it was like game, characters, aftermath.
Yeah.
And then you kind of used aftermath to build a little cliffhanger
lore
hype for
and
the
stuff
new
around.
one.
Yeah.
Some of this, I know some people just didn't like the new status quo of the fictional situation.
Because they did completely rewrite.
It's a complete reboot of the timeline, and everything's very different, and people are in very different situations, and there are people who just didn't jive with it, which I kind of get. Like, some of it is sort of like meh. Like Liu Kang as the new Raiden is a little meh. Like Raiden as the new Liu Kang is a little meh. Like, you're basically repeating yourself with slightly different tropes. Like,
Ashes in the Hourglass brings up a good point. Says that's a solid lineup if you grew up in the 90s, which I didn't, but I hear you. But the younger players don't care. Yeah,
that's true.
I don't know what the younger players do care about, honestly.
I mean, I don't know. I guess if you could put
console gaming,
you could put Skibbity Toilet in there. But then you don't know. I mean, really, it's like, I guess you should just look at what's been in Fortnite.
Yeah.
Like, it's popular in Fortnite, then you can put it in MK.
Well, they just did a Snoop Dogg concert on Fortnite. I mean, if you're talking about something that was popular in the 90s...
I mean, they just put Godzilla in Fortnite.
Right.
There's videos of Godzilla wearing sneakers and doing, doing the gritty.
Some stuff the kids do care about, but...
But, I mean, Godzilla is a contemporary thing in the sense
it's
that...
got films
it has
and...
the legendary films, and it is the legendary version of Godzilla, but still, it's weird seeing Godzilla run around shooting a gun and dancing and doing emotes, and it's just like, there was a moment, I think somebody tweeted about this too, but it was like, there was a moment where I'm like, because it's on my mind from thinking about Christopher Nolan and all the new stuff, I'm like, there is a direct line between the work of J. Robert Oppenheimer and the fact that I am watching a giant lizard dance, like, hit the gritty in Fortnite. Like, those two things, there's a straight line between the Godzilla doesn't exist without the atomic bomb, and we do not have this without Godzilla. Like, how fucking weird
that is weird
is reality at this point.
Erebus Jones says you can't completely split your player base anymore. COD couldn't go back to selling map packs. They should have sold novelty skins for existing fighters. Yeah,
they do that too.
I mean, I'll just be honest, I don't really care about DLC.
I mean, I somewhat do, in the sense that I'd like more story content on some things that was integrated. I do like the concept of these characters. One of the things that turns me off on the MK character packs, especially the guest characters, is that the guest character stuff is really cool. It's really cool that the T-1000 is in this with Robert Patrick doing the voice. It sucks that the T-800 isn't in the game because he was in the last one,
right.
And now we lost we lost the T-800 and we lost Jason and Freddy.
That's a separate license.
Alien, but it's all. I mean, now it is. It didn't used to be. Alien and Predator and we had the Ninja Turtles, and like, at the very least, it feels like you could bring forward the characters. I mean, obviously it's not that simple. Like, you have to implement the new tag system with whoever you would bring forward from those games. That's a lot of work. It's not like it's free to just drop the Terminator, the T-800 in. But it's a shame that, like, you're sort of getting to this point where, where it would have been pretty cool to have the Terminator and RoboCop and Alien and Predator in one Mortal Kombat, but you didn't get that. Yeah. I don't know. There's an element of it that's cool, but there's also an element of it that feels like incomplete.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do wonder if we'll have DLC for MK ever now.
And there's a good point that, like, a lot of the characters that have shown up in the guest stuff on this are characters that are simply irrelevant to a younger audience.
It's true. Yeah, I'm not denying that at all. Yeah.
I don't know who these horrible parents are that are not showing their kids the Terminator duology, because there's only two of them.
Yeah.
One or two of them worth watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and Ghost. I mean, I guess Scream is still happening.
They just had one, right? Wasn't there?
They just had one. They're doing another one. It's shooting now, I think. And Conan.
Yeah, that's definitely.
I mean, Conan is fairly universal in terms of a character, but the Schwarzenegger version of him is very specifically 1982 and 1984.
Yeah. That was for us, definitely.
Yeah, that was definitely for us.
No doubt about it.
And to bring back the guy who did the Arnold impression for the T-800 in the last one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's...
I wouldn't be sad if DLC just went away.
I've always been a little shocked that MK has supported with these DLC packs for so long anyway. Like, that we were a year and a half out of launch of the last one, and they're still putting stuff out with holiday.
It's like, I don't know anybody that buys DLC.
I bought the Mortal Kombat DLC when it hit deep discount.
Yeah,
like when it hit
for $5 for all of it.
When it hit deep discount, even Aftermath. When it hit deep discount before this one came out, I'm like, okay, $5 is the right price for this. And then I played Aftermath and to be ready for the new one.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually love the new one. I mean, I liked it. It was fine. I don't think it's bad. Yeah. But it didn't really hook me to the point that I don't even know half that stuff. I forgot that was coming out. Mm-hmm. I don't pay attention. Part of it's just the fire hose of content these days. Like, having something that hooks people and keeps their attention to the point that you want to come back to this game and remember how to do all these combos and deal with all these systems because, you want to play as Robert Patrick. I don't know how many of those people exist.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. So anyway, there you go. It looks like MK1 DLC is being put on ice for good, and who knows about future Mortal Kombat games, whether they'll have DLC.
I mean, I'd imagine that what this means is they're going to make more of the games. It basically means you're going to put out the game, and that's what you're going to put out.
Yeah.
Get your cash day one and call it the day.
Move on.
I think that's probably a better way to go about it.
I think so too. It seems like such a small percentage of people who buy the base game buy any DLC. So.
Yeah, every time you see DLC stuff pop up, it's always for the achievements on things. It's always like 1.1% have this achievement, and it's like the achievement for like doing the first thing.
Right.
In the
So
DLC.
you know that's how many people play.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Next up, here is a lesson for everybody on why you should not carpet bomb reviews for a game because it did something or the developer did something that you didn't like. Finally, after 8 years, No Man's Sky
almost 8.5
has finally hit very positive on Steam after 8 years. Matt, I would argue this game deserved that designation like 18 months after it launched.
Yeah, probably.
Because that's about how long it took for them to get it to a really good place.
Yeah.
But instead, because so many people went and review bombed the game at launch, it took 8 years of positive reviews that accurately reflect the game to get its average to a point where if somebody's going to check it out on Steam, they're getting an accurate representation of whether they should play and buy that game or not. This is the clearest example yet of why you should not review bomb games, because you're hurting other people who may be interested in that game later on.
I mean, it's the clearest example to me of why you shouldn't pay any attention to user reviews.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of cutting to the core of the discussion, really. You're right. Like, but the problem is, Matt, most people do.
I don't know if that's true.
Really?
No.
I feel like everybody I talk to about stuff, they always say, well, the user review is blah, blah, blah.
I don't remember the last time anyone I talked
Really?
to said that.
Oh, my nieces and nephews, that's like what they say for everything.
Well, I mostly talk to adults who know how the world works,
Yeah.
so that might be the difference.
Yeah.
Don't believe random people.
Yeah.
Like never my whole life I don't care. You trust the people that like and whose tastes you know. Like a bunch of randos on Steam. I don't know what they like. I don't know what they think. I don't know what they want. Like maybe the guy giving all these people giving this game a negative reviews are the people that like hate the games I love and love the games I hate. You don't know that. You don't know anything about these people.
Yeah. I think
it's bad enough trying to get a gauge on the writers at a video game site, like randos on a fucking storefront. Who gives a shit?
I honestly think that a lot of younger people have been almost brainwashed to believe that mainstream press is on the take and that the users are the only ones that you can trust.
That might be true. That's probably a more common theory than you would think, which is hilarious because, like, as someone who's been in the mainstream press, I promise you there's no money there.
Yeah, believe me, there's no payola going on.
I knew plenty of people who would have taken that fucking money at the drop of a hat, and nobody ever did because it's just not fucking there.
Yeah.
But believe you me, if I could get paid for saying stupid shit about video games that I didn't care about, I would definitely consider it. But that never was an option.
Yeah, it's all BS. But I do think that younger generations believe that to be the case, that you can't trust the real media. You can only trust the people. And I think we just learned a really hard lesson about trusting the people here. The last couple weeks, they don't always know best. So anyway, it's a shame that it's taken this long for No Man's Sky to be accurately represented on what is inarguably the biggest gaming platform to buy games in the frickin' world. God knows how much money this has cost Hello Games across the last 8.5 years.
Probably not a lot. I mean, they do very well.
I mean, but they could be doing even better, is my point.
Well, they didn't.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do that, they should have launched it better.
I mean, that's a good point. Like, that is partially their
I love this
fault.
game, but like...
You're right.
It was the way it was, and I mean, it's not like this was a great game that everybody review bombed out of spite or woke or whatever.
No, you're right.
It got bad reviews because everybody thought it sucked.
Yeah.
I didn't think it sucked. I played it for incessantly when it came out, but it's infinitely better now.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, like if you hated it then and haven't really paid attention to it since, now's the time to try it. Well, maybe not.
If you
now.
were intrigued by the concept.
Next time they put a free DLC thing up, free update up, they generally drop the price by half because it's still selling for full price.
Is it?
Yeah, when it's not on discount, it's still full price.
I didn't realize that.
And they drop it to like I think 29 or 30, 35 or something every time they put a pack out.
Yeah,
that's the time to jump in on it. And if you've played it before, you will not recognize it.
It really is crazy how much the game has changed in 8 years. But 8 years is also a long time.
Oh yeah, and they've never charged for any of it.
Yeah,
it's been like something like 24 or 27
I mean, they've been trying to
updates.
make up for their launch for 8.5 years.
And then, like every time Sean puts up a new thing, you get a bunch of replies being like, "Sean, stop! We'll pay for it. You don't have to do this anymore."
Yeah. Or just move on to your next.
And a
game,
lot of it, it's the most recent stuff. A lot of it has been like basically they're doing like dry runs for what they want to put in Light No Fire.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it is like, well, we implemented this for this game and for the new game, and we realized we could put it in the planets generation on this game, so we're just going to do that. So now you've got waves and tides and all this, like you've got all this stuff that's going to be in that new game that they've just implemented in what the planets do in No Man's Sky now. And like, and it's a small team. It's a little. I mean,
I'm ready to move on.
If you ever doubted this team's like dedication and genuineness about this, like, I mean, there's no better. Everyone who called them grifters and scam artists, those are the people that were wrong.
You were wrong. Yep, they've more than redeemed this game, and
they fucked up.
Yeah,
but
they've redeemed themselves.
This is how you take. I mean, this is more than how you take responsibility. This is overboard.
Yeah. Yep.
But,
yep. Okay. Next up. Something that we can't show you, unfortunately, but you may have seen it because we did curate it on Sifted. This week it was leaked out that at one point in time, there was a James Bond Lego game that was in development, but not really.
It was a pitch, basically.
So they wanted to get it into Lego Dimensions, right?
There was a thing about, there's been a couple conflicting stories. Like somebody who said they were on the team of Lego Dimensions posted about it. Because I think it sounds like the first idea of it was in like the mid-aughts when like Lego Star Wars hit big and all that, and like they were kind of thinking of other things they could do. This video seems to be, from what I read, Lego Dimension. They were thinking about a Bond thing in Lego Dimensions, but Lego Dimensions was being shut down. They knew Lego Dimensions wasn't getting a third year, so one of the things they came up with as a pitch to like, hey, we could do this instead, was this James Bond thing. And I guess Lego shut it down because they said it wouldn't be an appropriate license for Lego, because they were kind of coming into their like, we don't want them to use guns. We don't have to figure out how to say pussy galore in a Lego game. kind of. I mean, it is a little more. There's a little more sex in that than your average Lego thing. Yeah. However, like they've done James Bond sets since, not like with minifigures, but they've done. They've done the Aston Martin. They've done 007 Lego sets for like adult, and they've leaned way harder into the adult collectors for Lego in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
or so.
I mean that's the thing. A lot of people that play these games are adults.
Like you'll see people that like, or the advertisements for like that Titanic set and like a bunch of the really big expensive sets. Like the videos and the PR videos and the commercials are all adults. Yeah, like building them.
Yeah.
So there might be a reason to revisit the James Bond idea, because I've been saying they should do a James Bond Lego stuff since Lego Star Wars came out 20 years ago. I think people at G4 remember me complaining about that. And I'm like, where is the James Bond? Because like back then, especially when they didn't have voiceover, it was all told through the music. It was all the music and pantomiming in the cutscenes, and you could do James Bond with that. I think even better than with the voice acting.
Oh yeah, it'd be better. I agree.
That would solve the content problem in a lot of ways, because you wouldn't have to worry about saying anybody's name. You wouldn't have to worry about the weird innuendo. Yeah, you just have him doing all the and
sight gags.
Yeah, you could just do. You could Warner Brothers. You could Looney Tunes it. Yeah, it would be very easy. Nowadays, I guess that probably wouldn't fly because you have a certain production value expectation from those games.
By the way, we're watching right now the last truly good James Bond video game.
Yeah, he hasn't had a lot.
GoldenEye, obviously.
There are some that you could argue, but not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how bereft this industry has been of James Bond.
I think Everything or Nothing was okay.
A couple have been okay.
Yeah. I mean, GoldenEye is definitely the high bar. Yeah. Bunch of people like Nightfire for some reason. I didn't like that. I didn't think that was okay. And the one, what was the one, Rogue Agent, where you played the bad guy who turns? Oh, yeah. Or the 00 agent who turns bad.
Yeah, there's a while where Activision owned the license, and it was putting out games.
Just floundering. Yeah. And what was that terrible one that was like, that was the more recent one? I mean, more recent is probably like 12 years ago. But it was like, it was like a collection. It was just 007 Legends. It was just like
what it was.
It was just a collection of all the different movies, and a lot of it was racing stuff. Yeah. And it was just
garbage.
Awful.
It was awful. Literally awful. Yeah. They've done their best to try to kill James Bond out of video games. Let's just be honest. They have not been great. And the reason we can't show you the footage is because Warner Brothers blocked the footage on YouTube. So if we put it in the show,
So if you were wondering if it was real,
yeah, we'll get a copyright strike if we put it in the show. So we can't show it to you guys.
but it's nice that someone was actually thinking the same thing I was, at least. I mean, I think that would be a good choice.
It's still up on Twitter, and if you go to SIFTD, you can watch the footage. Like, they haven't taken it down off of Twitter yet, and so there's an article that we curated that has it embedded in the article, so you can watch the footage if you want to. But it looked okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be a fine game.
Yeah. Next up,
you could do like 5 of those. Like,
yeah.
If it hits, you got a moneymaker
on you go.
for the next decade.
Yeah. If they keep making the movies, it goes on to infinity.
Well, what I'm saying is you get 27 movies
right?
already.
Oh yeah, you just go. Right, the back catalog's already there. Well, what they would do is they'd sum up all 27 into one game.
No, I think,
and then start doing
that game was apparently just like cherry picked, like the best,
scenes
the best of the
all.
best.
Yeah.
It was, so it'd probably be only like 3 movies.
Yeah.
3 or 4 movies. It looked like they had Casino Royale, Thunderball, Moonraker, and I can't remember what the other one was in that trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do 4 or 5 movies per, and you'd get 5 games out of that before you even ran out of existing movies.
Yep.
Because I don't know where the next one is. Like, there's still no movement so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got to pick a new guy, and there've been a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
For a while, they were looking at Idris Elba. Apparently.
That's who I thought it was going to be.
No, there's no word on anything.
Wow.
Idris Elba's a little old for it now.
Yeah.
But at the time when people first started talking about that, he would have been a great pick.
Yeah. I had heard about that. Yeah.
He could pull off the same kind of. He could pull off the Bond suave.
Yeah.
Easily. But yeah, I don't know who they're going for now.
Okay. Next up, earlier we teased that we're going to talk about Tencent in a couple minutes, and here we are. So this is crazy. Tencent just announced a game. It is called Light of Motiram or Motiram. I'm not
Motiram,
something like that.
I don't know.
And it is literally a blatant ripoff of PlayStation's Horizon franchise. Matt, I have never seen a more shameless ripoff.
Well, it's a ripoff of the aesthetic for sure.
I mean,
because it's just another survival crafting game.
It's
not a Horizon clone gameplay wise.
Right, it's not an action RPG.
It's another bullshit clone of, every other survival crafting build a thing, whatever.
But look at this. Even the lead character. I mean, she has dark hair or whatever, but she's very obviously in this weird pseudo techno tribe. And there's even a scene here where they literally just, I'm going to fast forward it, where they literally just rip a scene. Look at this. I mean, look at that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it is just blatant.
Yeah, I don't know if Sony is going to even attempt anything on this.
They're not. They're not. They're okay with it. They are just announced it today for PS5, and it's on PlayStation's official website. Look at this. This is literally ripped straight from a Horizon trailer. This whole scene where she goes into the cave and starts taking the dust off of hieroglyphics and crap. That is straight out of a Horizon trailer. This shot right here. Mm-hmm. It is sad that you can't sue people for stuff like this. I mean, this is just blatant IP theft.
You can sue someone for anything.
Win. Not waste money on lawyers.
I think you probably could win this, but it's not worth it. It's what's the point?
I mean, PlayStation's gonna let it release on its platform,
right? Because they know it's not worth fighting.
Yeah,
but it's not like you can't fight it. You could fight if you wanted to, but who cares?
I mean,
if
I were Guerrilla Games, I would care.
Well,
man.
I'm sure Guerrilla Games does care, especially the art department. But it's okay. No one's gonna give a shit. It's not gonna be good. No, it's not like it's gonna replace Horizon. In the industry or the culture or the sales charts. This is trash with a nice aesthetic that they've stolen from another game, and it's just I don't have any interest. I'll be honest, if it was a direct Horizon clone gameplay wise, I might try it, but I'm not gonna play another fucking tame things and build your fucking settlement thing again. I have no interest in playing Horizon with thirst. That's not interesting to me.
It's just shameless.
And there's a lot of Pal World in this too.
Yeah,
they're gameplay wise and kind of design, sort of structure. Look at her building the ladder as
she climbs it. Yeah.
Now you're gonna tame a stoat.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you actually see what the game is like. There's a little part of the trailer.
Yeah, the game is just another, Pal World Valheim thing. It's the same old.
Does it have a Pokemon element to it where you're capturing critters?
You're capturing and taming all these monsters.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Because that's why she's got creatures that are helping her maintain the.
That's
base
very
and
much
stuff.
like Pal World. Yeah.
100%. I mean, this is basic. This is as much of an what is it?
I mean, it does have real-time combat.
I mean, not really.
Yeah.
It's as much as any of these things do, I guess.
But then ultimately the goal is to capture the monster anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is Monster Hunter. What's happening here?
Yeah. But you beat them up enough to the point where they're weak and you capture them.
I mean, I'm sure you can kill them and harvest them, or you can tame them some other way. Because the other thing they're stealing from here is
you're right though. It's like a cross between Monster Hunter and Horizon.
Yeah.
Like, they're just ripping everything off for this game.
Well, you can't copyright a gameplay system. So.
This is just shameless, man.
Yeah, well.
But I'm not surprised it's coming from Tencent and from China, because they don't care. They don't care about IP. They don't care about trademarks. They don't care about any
yeah, one of the boss, I can't remember which boss. One of the bosses near the end of the trailer has the exact same moveset as
we'll fast forward.
One of the bosses in Elden Ring.
It's just crazy in a trailer to show this much of the same fight. Like, you just don't see this in video game trailers. Like, they'll show a clip from it. They won't show the whole damn thing. Is this what you're talking about?
It's like the last thing they show, so maybe.
Jump forward.
They show a boss that has the exact same moveset as what was it? What's his name? The guy it begins with a G. I can't remember his name. In Elden Ring, the big fallen king guy.
Oh, I have no idea. You're definitely asking the wrong person about that one, Kyle.
So there you go.
That's just crazy.
But nobody's coming after him for it, so nobody thinks it's worth fighting.
Again, it's called Light of Motorum. I have no idea.
My guess is that's Motirum.
Yeah, you're probably right. That sounds more correct.
That sounds fantasy enough.
But it is coming to consoles, and the whole shebang is coming to PlayStation 5. I mean, I guess PlayStation's just like, you know what? We probably wouldn't win a court case. We might as well make our cut of money when this game sells, so we can make some money off of our own IP. It's just nuts. Can you think of a game that's worse than Pal World to me? Can you think of a game that's worse than that one?
Worse? I mean,
as far as like looking blatantly like something else.
I mean, there have definitely been, like, I would say, like, Oceanhorn is about as that blatant about ripping up Wind Waker.
Yeah. The art style is very, very similar.
What else? That also is, that's also ripping off the fucking dinosaur MMO, the sequel that has Vin Diesel in it. Ark
Survival Evolved.
Like, they're also stealing from that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, Immortals Phoenix Rising was a pretty blatant Breath of the Wild clone visually, if not gameplay wise.
Yeah. Still, I think this is the worst one.
I mean, in the sense that, like, Horizon's got a unique style with those robot designs, and that's clearly what they're doing here.
I mean, that is just if you're the artist who designed. I mean,
even
those
the
creatures,
still, like,
you gotta be so pissed.
Even like the banner still is literally just a clone. Even the posing of her is the same as the Horizon, like, you know, the little poster thing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's no tall necks.
Right.
That you map anything with. Like,
yeah.
That was like the one thing that wasn't in that trailer. Was the tall. Everything else almost had an equivalent.
I bet it's in there.
The other thing that's interesting is that they have way more monsters.
Right.
Like, there's scorpions. Like, there's like a whole lot of stuff in there.
You're right. They actually took it and ran with it more than the Horizon team did, in fact. Yeah. So anyway, that game's coming from Tencent.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a bunch of very angry artists at Guerrilla, but what can you do about
it? We intentionally did not add this game to our database on SIFTD. Because just out of protest, but maybe we should.
It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's talking about it now, but when the rubber hits the road, it's going to be a mediocre Monster Hunter ripoff with, like, building elements, and, like, who gives a shit?
Yeah. It feels like they're just like, hey, let's take something from the most popular things right now and make it all into one game and see what happens. And what's going to happen is failure. Okay, let's move on. This morning, we got some information from Software. I think a lot of people just assumed that From Software immediately shifted gears and started working on a sequel to Elden Ring, because Elden Ring was far and away its most popular, most successful video game ever, and obviously one of the most successful games of the last couple years. Well, the head of From Software did an interview. I believe it was at an award show, something like that, some kind of event he was at. He did an interview, and he shared a couple things. The first thing is he said that they are working on tons of games right now, and that most of them do not fall into the purview of their past output. So they're not dark fantasy. They might still be very difficult, but they're not like dark fantasy action RPGs. And he said you will be surprised to see what From Software really is, basically. He's like, we've been making these games, so we need to make them because that's what people wanted, to make money. We just made a ton of money off of Elden Ring. We can kind of do what we want now, and you're going to see that From Software isn't necessarily what you think it is.
Although I'm guessing they have another Armored Core in the pipeline.
Maybe. But then he followed it up.
Otherwise, there's no reason to do that short that's coming up in that secret level show.
Mm-hmm. And then he dropped the big bomb, and that is that Elden Ring 2 isn't even in development and won't be for a long time, if ever. I mean, I just want to give the man props. I want to give the man a high five. How many developers or publishers can you think of that would have a hit as big as Elden Ring and then turn its back on it and not make a sequel?
To be fair, I imagine they've done just about everything they can.
Yeah.
For that. Like,
I mean, they probably looked at
left?
it like Erd Tree was the sequel.
Yeah, more or less.
And they're like, we're done, we're good. And to be fair, it is proven from Software that it can just come up with some new concept and people are going to buy right in and it's going to be hugely successful.
Maybe that's the new trend with these big hits.
It could be.
That happened with Baldur's Gate 3, too.
That's true, actually. Well, that was a financial thing, right? Where, like, Larian didn't want to...
They don't want to deal with Hasbro anymore,
Right.
Wizards of the Coast anymore, which is fair.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's like, where do you go from... You've made the ultimate D&D game. Now what? You want to just do it again? Like, It already took you 6 years. How many years you got left in your life?
It's true, yeah.
Like, go do something you own fully. Makes more sense to me.
I wonder, too, if how long it is taking to make games now may result in some brain drain from the games industry.
There might be some of it. I mean,
where people are like, you know what? I can't put out one thing every 6 years.
When he says Elden Ring 2 is not in development, I hear that is like, yes, the literal Elden Ring 2 is maybe never going to exist. But I bet you they have another open world action RPG in development.
Yeah.
That is not like, maybe it's a sci-fi thing. Maybe
But IP building is such a hard thing to do. I mean, they did it like it was nothing. They went from like, hey, screw Dark Souls.
Well, I think if you can just keep churning out stuff that looks like this, like you're going to get attention. And again, Elden Ring was enough of a breakout success that you can just say, like, this is the people that made Elden Ring. And
people are going to jump on.
You'll get the attention even from the casuals, I think.
Yeah, now. Because, Elden Ring sold 20-plus million units. So, tons of casuals played Elden Ring. And to my surprise, a lot more of them liked it than I thought.
And J. Reed Vick makes a good point. Like, Bungie was ready to be done with Halo after the first one, but were forced to keep making them. And, like, look what happened to them.
Yeah. J. Reed Vick, your documentary is great, by the way. Just want to let you know. I watched the first 2 episodes of it this week late at night when I was about ready to call it a night. And it was great. So awesome job. Congratulations. I see a lot of people talking about it online as well. And obviously I'm into football and fantasy football. And people were talking about that documentary on NFL games yesterday. Like the announcers were like, hey, did you see that Madden documentary? Because the timing of that was perfect for you guys because it came out right before Thanksgiving. And that's what Madden is known for. The whole turducken. And he was always one of the announcers on the Thursday, the Thanksgiving Day games. Good job, man. Timing of it's great. Documentary's great. You got all the announcers at the football games talking about it. I'm assuming it's doing really well for you. So congratulations, man. And I would take no credit for that, for talking about it here on GameFace last week. Okay, next up. Oh, actually, are you sad that there's no Elden Ring 2? Do you care?
No, I don't care.
Yeah. I obviously don't care, but
they can do whatever they want.
Yeah. I'm curious if chat cares. Do you guys care about IP, or are you just like, as long as that
for
studio...
God's sake, what more do you want out of Elden Ring? It's a 100-hour plus game. Like they covered the fucking subject. Like, it's fine. Go on to something else. It's cool.
Ashes in the Hourglass says, if metaphor success means anything, studio names are enough of a selling point for players. I don't agree with that. Like, I don't even think people know the studio that made Persona.
I can't really even name the studio.
It's called P Studio.
I know it's them
Catchy.
because when you look at metaphor, you're like, yeah, obviously that's this Persona thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really think that's true because I don't think their studio is that well known.
They don't really try to become a thing.
Not really. I don't know why Metaphor did so well. And did it
reviews?
do so well?
I think I don't know financially if it's done well. I know critically it has.
Critically, sure. Financially, I don't think we know numbers yet.
We don't.
So I don't know if it did that well.
Yeah.
It reviewed well. That doesn't really translate to success all that often.
Yep.
Because nobody reads reviews outside of a very core group.
That's true. But anyway, if there is one developer that can just trash a really popular IP and then create another one and have it be just as popular as the one they just trashed, it's probably From Software or Nintendo.
Sold over 1 million in a week, 5th in the NPD charts.
Not bad.
I mean, it's pretty good for that.
Yeah.
I do think there's a good shot that their next, I assume their next game will probably be Persona 6. I think that might start outselling Final Fantasy.
It's possible.
Yeah. I think Persona is going to overtake Final Fantasy.
It could absolutely happen. Yeah. If Square Enix doesn't get its house in order.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think the momentum on Persona is so
way higher.
Strong that it's their fight to lose at this point.
I'd agree with that.
And I don't see them losing that.
Yeah. So anyway, no Elden Ring 2, it doesn't look like. Maybe ever. It seems crazy, but again, From Software is the one studio that can pull that off and not get burned financially.
I mean, remember, Elden Ring was nothing, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, sure, they had the rep from the Souls games, but Elden Ring was new IP.
That's my point. It's like they ditched Dark Souls, and we're doing this Elden Ring thing, and everyone's like, okay. Like, they didn't question it at all. So there you go. That's the latest on From Software and Elden Ring 2. And next up, we just had Black Friday. And people, it's a tradition here on GameFace. The annual running of the Black Friday B-roll. In 2 years, it will be just as popular as the running of the bulls in Spain. I am completely convinced of that. We have to run it every year just to remind you what it used to be like and read this video. Still blows my freaking mind.
When was this from? Was this like?
Oh, this is like a compilation. I think we've been running it for like 4 or 5 years now.
One of my friends sent me a video. It was a video of kind of similar to this, but it was from 1994. It was like a news report from 1994. And I said to him, like, what in the world were they buying in 1994?
A TV for $20.
And he was like, Dreamcast? And I'm just like, no, we're still a few years out from that. These people were killing each other over TurboGraphics or
I mean, a lot of it is just a cheap TV, man.
I guess.
You get a TV for $100. And I guess my question to you, my question to you is, did you pick up anything on Black Friday or through any of the sales or for Cyber Monday?
Of course not. They all suck. And they're all clearance. There's nothing good. There's nothing new.
The sales do suck. I did not pick up anything for myself. However, both my mother and my sister-in-law put me on the case. My mom wanted a new laptop. My sister-in-law wanted a new TV for her bedroom. And so I went through the whole process of going through all the sales. Part of it is just my job curating sales articles for SIFTD. So I kind of had a working knowledge of what was going on. But I actually did the legwork, and I ended up getting my sister-in-law recommending a Hisense television. Did you know that Hisense has actually turned into like a decent brand at this point?
I've heard that they've turned it around a little in the same way that like TCL did. Or
yeah. So I recommended her TV for her living room 4 or 5 years ago. That was a TCL. And now she asked me again because she loves the TCL TV. She's like, what TV should I get now for the bedroom? And I recommended the Hisense. This Hisense TV that she bought is 55 inches. It has everything that LG OLEDs have. It has 120 frames per second. It has variable refresh rates, everything. And it was for like $500. She got this TV. She doesn't even realize how awesome the TV. She won't even use 80% of the features that TV has. She's just going to watch TV with it, basically. But all those features for $500 on a 55-inch panel. I got my mom a laptop. She's a big QVC shopper, which is really funny. And she texted me like 2 weeks ago and was like, hey, I found this laptop on QVC that I'm going to buy. And I'm like, no, what are you doing? Black Friday is in a week. Like, don't buy anything right now. That's the worst thing that you can do is buy something right now. So I convinced her to hold off. And then she's like, okay, well, big mouth, let's see what you got. Well, I found her a laptop that destroys the specs for that QVC laptop that was $650 for $250. My mom got a kick-ass laptop for $250. So there are still some sales out there. I had to work for it. Like, I had to look around to find like the best deals or whatever. That deal ended up being at Best Buy, by the way. Holy crap, that's crazy. Look at this footage. This is why we watch it every year. You forget all the insanity that is in this montage. It's just nuts. So I would say, Matt, that Black Friday actually kind of worked out for my family a little bit, at least. Like, I got my sister-in-law an awesome TV for really cheap, and I got my mom a kick-ass laptop for like $250. So I think ultimately this is the first decent Black Friday that I've experienced in quite a long time. Also, by the way, Black Friday set records.
Yeah, people, it's like, weird. The economy suddenly.
Wait, I thought the
okay.
economy was terrible. I thought everyone was paying too much for eggs and gas, and that's why they voted for the felon. But wait a minute.
Oh no, it's all. I'm sure it's all just optimism over how great everything's gonna be.
Yeah. That must be it, Matt. Yeah, that's why everybody did that.
Or maybe just buying all the electronics and appliances before the fucking tariffs make them $300 more.
I mean, that might be it. That might be part of it for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, my Black Friday worked out pretty good for me. Like, I don't know if it worked out for you guys. Like, we curate tons of sales articles. If you guys aren't using those, let me know, because I'll stop curating them. They're not things that, like, I'm excited to, like, curate and then get into your SIF. But if you guys are using them, obviously they're a very handy tool that can save you a ton of money. I saved my mom $400 on that laptop.
Yeah, I just didn't. I got some stuff on the Steam sale, but I don't really associate that with Black Friday.
Yeah, I don't really either.
For anyone who hasn't played it, Mass Effect Legendary Edition is $4.93.
Really?
It's $5.
Wow.
Go get the Mass Effect trilogy if you haven't already played it, because holy shit.
They did a great job in that version as well. Yeah. So anyway, Black Friday, I actually made some use of it this year for the first time in like 5 years. Fairwoodall says I bought a bunch of stuff before the tariffs. It has nothing to do with a good economy. Yeah. Rigor Mortis says I saved 649 is that euro or pounds?
That's pounds.
Pounds on a laptop. That's great, man. You must have got like a really nice like gaming laptop or something. But my mom was very excited. She's like, literally, I listened to you and I saved $400. And I was like, that's right. So anyway, Black Friday maybe it's a little bit better this year, but really I just wanted to show the Black Friday B-roll again, the running of the Black Friday B-roll. Next up, we got some tidbits on the new Indiana Jones game, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It comes out here in the next handful of days. Somehow it got out that the game is extraordinarily long. Machine Games said that it is the longest game that it has ever made. And Machine Games has made games that are 17 to 20 hours long. So this game, my guess is over 20 hours. Are you surprised by that?
I mean, that's about where they've been trending with the later Wolfenstein games, so that's about right. Who knows with side quests, and we'll see
if it's accurate. Because we've heard media say that before.
Yeah, my main question is like, how will it sustain through all of that?
This may be the game that I am most flummoxed by of 2024 before I play it.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think of this yet.
I don't. I'm going into this thing with my eyes wide open and with a full heart of hope. I guess that's the best way I could put it.
Like the launch trailer is interesting. Like there's some interesting stuff in there. Points off for using the Grail theme for non-Grail stuff, because the Holy Grail, that's the Holy Grail theme that John Williams wrote to represent the Holy Grail. You can't just take a motif and use it for random tomb shit. Like that's not how that works. One of my and I think Troy Baker's doing a pretty good job as Indy. That's a very hard voice to do. Although there is some moments where you're like, it's Troy Baker as Harrison Ford, as Indiana Jones, as Troy Baker, kind of thing. But Harrison Ford is a very difficult impression to do. Like the only really great impression of Harrison Ford I've ever heard is Mark Hamill does a very good one, and there's two guys who played a younger version of him in a couple of his character in a couple of movies right before Solo, and one of them was Alden Rich or whatever it was, and the other one was another guy, and the other guy is way better at it than the guy who played Solo in Solo.
Wow.
I don't know why, and he looks more like him too. I don't know why they didn't pick the other guy.
Interesting.
But he's a very hard impression to do. LucasArts struggled for 20 plus years trying to come up with people who could do a decent Han Solo, and they never quite nailed it. This is pretty close.
Yeah.
But my other thing with watching also the old trailers, but also the new trailer, is it really doesn't look like there's going to be like a big car chase or a big train robbery or a big tank showdown.
It doesn't feel like a big open world
it doesn't feel like
game.
there's going to be any sort of scale to it.
Yeah.
You're going to be, there's a lot of corridors and a lot of buildings and a lot of tombs and a lot of caves. I'm wondering I don't know. Like, I'm wondering if this is going to have like all the indie elements you need to make an indie thing.
My fear is that it comes off a little dated. We'll see. Again, I have no idea. I'm very excited to play it because I literally feel like I have very little clue. It's just what kind of game this is going to be. It could just be like a crazy linear, like corridor-driven, go from like one scene to the next. Maybe there are open world-ish areas. I don't know if that works for indie.
Was it Rigor Mortis says, I'm thinking of Jamie Costa. Am I? Because I know him. Like, we got a movie. Jamie Costa, he says the guy I'm thinking of that the other Harrison Ford is Jamie Costa, but I know Jamie.
Like you're friends with him.
Yeah, we go to movies together all the time. He's the guy who
have him do his Harrison Ford for you.
Next time I see him, I didn't realize I didn't know him when that was happening. So maybe that is it. But like, he also, you might know him also as he does a really good Robin Williams.
No,
he did a reel, like a kind of a concept reel for like a biopic of Robin Williams, where he's Robin Williams in his trailer finding out that Belushi died.
Oh,
and he's very, very
wow.
well
That
played.
needs to happen, by the way. That biopic.
Yeah, it feels pretty. But he's looks a lot like him, and he does a dead on impression of him, and it's a very good scene.
How are you guys feeling about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle? What are you guys thinking? Like, obviously Matt and I have been doing this for a really long time, and we're both kind of like, I really don't know. It could just be a bunch of little events strung together into a game. Like,
I mean, it looks like it's a pretty coherent. I mean, we're gonna call it the Great Circle. You better have some connections. In there. I don't know. Like, it's just indie games are sort of. Indiana Jones is such a hard thing to nail down. Like, they can't even really do it in the movies very well. Like, I don't even think Temple of Doom does it all that well.
Yeah.
I think your quintessential Indiana Jones things are Raiders and Last Crusade. I would say probably the best Indiana Jones game is Fate of Atlantis, the point-and-click adventure game.
I think most people agree with that, yeah.
It feels the most like him, and it's partly based on a pitch for another movie that never happened. Beyond that, they've all just sort of been like sort of mediocre Tomb Raider clones.
Yeah.
And like, to me...
I think mediocre might be generous.
To me now, the real hitch here is like, whether it's fair or not, an Indiana Jones game is going to be measured against Uncharted.
Yeah.
And so if you're not going to make a game as good as Uncharted, why even bother?
Yeah.
And so you're sort of up against... it's a high bar when it comes down to it. And Machine Games is I think Machine Games is up to it. Like, their Wolfenstein stuff has been very good. But Indiana Jones is such a hard thing to grasp.
It really is.
It's such an ethereal sort of like, you know it when you see it sort of thing. And it's just, it's going to come down to how well they...
I've been impressed with the humor in the trailers.
I mean, it feels right. The tone feels right. It's just like...
It has to have
the whole package has to come together right, and you just don't know that until you play it.
Some of the gags in the trailers
I'm also
were
very a little confused about the first-person stuff. Why is it first-person, and it switches to third sometimes, and how is that going to work? And I'm trying to think of an example of when that's worked smoothly, and I can't really.
We're getting a lot of feedback.
I just have a lot of questions. I mean, obviously the questions will be answered in 2 days, so it's not like it's a burning thing. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this game.
Eth Demon says I'll play it on Game Pass if it's good. AJ the Legend says
I'll play it on Game Pass regardless.
Yeah, right. Funny because I feel I should be more excited for this than I am. I think a lot of people may be feeling that way.
Yeah. Also, like, let's be honest. The Indiana Jones brand is not what it used to be after the last 2 movies.
Yeah. And fairly.
Everyone's got their own reservations about some of this, and like, I don't blame them for it.
Cinetike says it seems like they showed too much already. That's a good point. But if it is a 20 or 30-hour game,
you may not have seen any of it. My problem is that there is an element of having they've shown a whole lot of their hand on this, and the fact that we still haven't seen like a car chase or a bigger action scene beyond that makes me think they're just not in there.
Yeah. Erebus Jones says Machine Games is good. Gives me hope. It's also free on Game Pass, so the only thing at risk is some time. That's true. I mean, that's the Game Pass mantra. Retro Modern Gamer says, I heard the rumor that review embargo is because they think the game might be bad. Okay, I don't know where you got that from.
I mean, people say that about embargoes all the time, but it's rarely the case.
Unless the embargo is a week before the game comes out. Justin Horman says, make your bets. Will Lara Croft be referenced at all in this game, or even Nathan Drake? I highly doubt it.
I have a hard time believing Lucasfilm would approve any of that.
Yeah. Minority Game says, I don't care about Indiana Jones. I'd rather play Tomb Raider. Okay. Retro Modern Gamer also got banned or censored or whatever Funny name. I just thought of this. If it bombs Indiana Jones and the Great Circle Jerk. Don't you think it's crazy that Twitch managed to like censor that Circle Jerk?
Yeah, well, they know everything. I've seen them hold some stuff that I would never have connected with whatever weird thing they're mentioning.
JM Rain 99 says, I have become less interested in games on Game Pass. They are just there so I can play whenever. Yeah, I mean, this month is pretty good because you get Stalker 2 and you get Microsoft Flight Simulator and you get Indiana Jones. But yeah, I mean, I hardly ever play Game Pass anymore. Like, I'll play like 1 or 2 games a month if it's like the new thing that like I don't want to pay for on some other platform. But yeah, I don't use it as much as I used to, for sure. Okay, and our last topic.
Sometimes I forget. Like, I accidentally bought Chronicles of Ava on Steam, and I didn't realize it was on Game Pass.
Oh, that sucks.
I'm like, now because of that, I didn't dislike that game. I wasn't unhappy to have bought it, but like now I check every time. I was like, before I get this Sony game, I'm gonna make sure it's not on Game Pass. Kind of thing.
Yep. And then our final story for headlines is something I accidentally teased a little bit earlier, and that is that all NASCAR games have been delisted everywhere because the NASCAR license was just sold to iRacing. Matt, I mean, I know iRacing. I know it's this thing that like all the professional race car drivers legitimately use to train. I didn't realize it was big like that, where it could gobble up the license and then force like everybody to delist all their NASCAR games. To me, I thought iRacing was like this niche thing that just like really rich dudes with more money than they know what to do with play, and real racers used to train and build those crazy rigs with hydraulics and everything. Like, it really is a thing, iRacing. But I never thought it was big enough that it could just buy up the NASCAR license and shut everything else down. Like, that's pretty crazy to me. Also, keeping in mind that NASCAR games are some of the most boring racing games you will ever play in your life. Like, if you have the whole rig that, like, moves around while you race and everything, sure, that's great.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
like,
that's honestly the only way to really make it all that interesting is to, like, simulate it down to the nubs.
Otherwise, it's just a big left turn over and over again. It never ends. It's just...
And it's like, if you can afford the iRacing thing, why don't you just go get a car and race?
Right,
like,
and just go to the track on the weekend. Like, yeah, I don't get NASCAR, but, you know, to each their own. If you like it, it's cool. I don't really care, you know, whether you like it or not.
I understand the appeal of NASCAR in the sense of the event. Like going to the event and being with people and seeing the thing and there's a community to it.
Yeah, especially
the smaller, like not the local stuff. Like
I went to a big NASCAR,
like
race.
A high school football game kind of thing.
It was
there's an element of that.
After the first 2 laps, there's nothing to watch.
No, well,
because the first 2 laps.
That's why you got to get drunk and like yell at other people around you.
Right.
Like,
first 2 laps is a race. And after that, it's just cars in a line going around.
One of the things you'll notice
circle.
if you go to these things, like everyone in the sections they're in all know each other.
Yeah.
Because they all have the same seats and they all go. They're all in the
same
one
place. I went to, there was like 80,000 people there or whatever.
The big ones, yeah, but those are people that actually care about all that. But like, there's there's almost a minor league element to it as if you're really into it, as I understand it.
We have a friend,
which I am not. I don't understand. I mean,
yeah, we had a friend who was the head of marketing for NASCAR, and so she got us into a big NASCAR race for free, VIP in the box with like all the catering and everything. Still, after like 30 minutes, I was ready to get out of there. Now she's the head of marketing for the LA Clippers. And so now we get into like a bunch of Clippers stuff. Huge upgrade over the NASCAR freebies for sure. But anyway, if you are a NASCAR fan, you are going to have one place to get NASCAR going forward.
Well, 2.
Yeah. And do you need more than one?
There's NASCAR.
Yeah, right.
And there's
the video games. Yeah. So anyway, there's an exclusive license on NASCAR now. You're either going to like the iRacing stuff or you're not. And let's be honest, like the iRacing stuff, if you don't have like the crazy rig, it loses a lot of its charm. So maybe it's just a case where NASCAR's like, you know what? We're not making any money on our video games anyway. We might as well give it to the sim people who everybody that watches NASCAR respects. So that might be the play there.
Yeah, if you're super into it, I guess you go for that. I mean, I don't know. How much do those things cost?
Oh, God. Thousands. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's scale. There's like, I think you can get like a cheap one for like $4,000, But you can spend like 50 grand on some of those crazy ones, man, where like you have like the screens all around you and you have the full setup with the gear shift, and it's not just like a little plastic gear shift thing that you bought for Gran Turismo. It's like the legit shifter. Like
it's the equivalent of like those like high-end flight stick things, and like where you basically, you know, they sell full Boeing cockpit,
which is kind of scary.
Yeah, I guess that is maybe training for some things we shouldn't.
Retro Modern Gamer says the NASCAR joke that always stuck with me is NASCAR, fast cars for slow people. Oh, I shouldn't have read that. I didn't see the punchline coming, unfortunately. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on NASCAR video games, and I think for most people, it's not good news.
I'm sure it's partly because they're subscription based too, so you're getting
iRacing,
a constant flow of money from it.
Yeah. But anyway, I think generally for most NASCAR fans, this is probably not a good thing. My guess is most NASCAR fans have a PlayStation.
Here's the iRacing week planner.
What's that mean?
That's so you can plan your week around when the races are.
Because you have to. There's appointments. Yeah.
Basically, it's like iRacing at its hardest course is like the
real race.
It's like the people who like set up like their own airlines and flight simulator. You know, it's like you got to stick to a schedule
and run it and do the whole thing.
Like there was, I remember like back in the old forum days, there was a guy who like. He was getting in trouble at work because he would like leave work to go home and land his plane and make it take off again because he was on a schedule for his airport. And eventually he was trying to have his wife do it, and she didn't know how to land the plane because it's basically like landing an actual
real plane. Yeah.
And like you could only autopilot for so much, and like he was just like, I had to go home and maintain the thing, and like his boss was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Hashtag priorities. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on NASCAR video games, and we're about to celebrate the 30th anniversary of PlayStation, which just blows my mind. But before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. 'Tis the season for LS Cream sifters. Right now is the time to get yourself some LS Cream and get ready. Maybe you dodged the bullet that was spending Thanksgiving with the family, but you can't dodge Christmas or Hanukkah. So you probably want to take a bottle of LS Cream with you on all your family outings over the holidays. You never know when you're going to run into that crazy uncle that you have to deal with, and you're going to need to take the edge off a little bit. And truth be told, if you bring a bottle of LS Cream into any of your holiday gatherings and just have one person try it, I guarantee you everybody is going to make a drink with it. Because the first person you give it to is going to be like, that's amazing. Everyone's going to hear it. And next thing you know, your bottle of LS Cream is gone. So anyway, buy a bunch of them. Get yourself a bunch of bottles of LS Cream. Go to creamls.com/sifted. If you go there, you can find places where you can buy it locally or you can get it delivered. In my case, I go home for the holidays to the East Coast. So I'm thinking about, because I live in Pennsylvania where it's this weird state store situation, I'm thinking about buying a bottle online and just shipping it to my mom's house and then taking it over to my buddy's house once I get there. So anyway, no holiday season is complete without LS Cream. It is amazing. It is perfect for the holidays, and it is way better than eggnog, though you could probably mix it with eggnog, and that wouldn't be too bad either. So it is really a perfect liqueur for the holidays. If you didn't get it for Thanksgiving, make sure you get it for Christmas. Go to creamls.com/sifted. All right.
I found the highest end possible iRacing sim setup. It's with PC and sound system, 4 monitors, all the surround sound, moving seat, installation and testing, demonstration, and like professional installation and the whole thing, the whole deal. Guess how much?
$35,000.
40,000.
I was close.
But
I was going to say 40 at first.
But you're right. This is 35,000, but with the professional installation and testing and demonstration, that makes it 40,000.
Wow.
So you were actually correct twice.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, this is...
It's
look at that steering wheel.
It's crazy, dude.
If it was something I was interested in, I would really look at that and be like, man, I'm jealous. But I look at this now and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. You have to be very wealthy. Cinetype says Shane won name that price. My mom's not watching right now, but here's something funny. Later on this week, we're going to The Price is Right. My mom has watched The Price is Right her whole life. She loves it. Her mom, my grandmother, loved The Price is Right. She would babysit me, and I would go over there, and every day at 11 a.m., she would watch The Price is Right until noon, and then she would take her nap at noon, and that's when I would go out and run crazy in the neighborhood. Anyway, my mom loves The Price is Right, and I got tickets for The Price is Right for Thursday. Yep, she is gonna lose it.
Who hosts that now? Is it still
whatever the
Drew
comedians?
Carey?
Yeah, still Drew Carey. Okay. And the funny thing is my mom last night sent my wife a text and said, "Man, I screwed up. I should have told Shane to get tickets to The Price is Right." And I was like, "Yes." So anyway, if they try to call me up there, I'm gonna be like, "No." Like my mom needs to go up there, so I will not be a part of The Price is Right. And you may see me in the audience. But if anybody goes up, it's going to be my mom. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that she goes up there.
You'll all get the name tags.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a dream come true if my mom got to participate on The Price is Right. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that happens. So it would make her entire trip. So anyway, let's move on. Let's start talking about
That's one of the LA things I've never done. I've never gone to The Price is Right.
Me either. Yeah, I've never gone to a taping of anything here.
I've been to some tapings of things, but not that.
Yeah.
I do love Plinko.
Yeah, me too. It's my favorite one. My favorite game is the yodeling game.
The Alpine Climber is one of the best.
Alpine Climber. That's what it's called. It's the best. AJ the Legend says, put Dinfire on your name tag. I will. I will put Dinfire on there. And if I do end up in the show, I'll try to grab footage of it and I'll bring it here on GameFace to show you guys if somehow I end up being in the background or whatever.
So my favorite was always Press Your Luck.
Me too.
I love that one.
Big bucks, no whammies.
Summit big bucks.
Until that guy scammed it.
Yeah. Which is also fascinating.
It is, yep. Okay, let's talk about video games. Let's talk about PlayStation video games. Let's talk about PlayStation's 30th anniversary. I don't know if there's anything that makes me feel as old as the PlayStation's 30th anniversary.
I can think of something.
What?
I was looking, because of a board game I have, I was looking up the Battle of Midway. And I was looking up the TV series that I used to watch with my dad about World War II back when I was in high school and a little bit older, called Battlefield, which is from the UK. They used to run it on History Channel here. Is the driest fucking tactical rundown of a battle you'll ever see. I love it absolutely to death. But I realized that ever since I turned 33, I was born closer to the Battle of Midway than I was to today. And in fact... that documentary is almost that TV show is almost as old now as the Battle of Midway was when I was born.
It's nuts. Well, how we're going to structure this discussion? First, Matt and I are going to just talk about PlayStation in general. What it has meant to the industry, how it's changed the industry, what are the lasting sort of things that have come out of it, what has influenced other developers and publishers, that type of stuff. And then Matt and I are going to rank the PlayStation platforms from 7 to first. We're going to try to come to a consensus on this. It might be interesting. And you guys start thinking about it yourselves. Start thinking about how you would rank those 7 platforms in order of awesome, I guess is the way we're going to put it. But first, Matt, let's just talk about 35 years of PlayStation. The first thing I would say is I was a hardcore gamer before PlayStation ever launched. And I was living in Philly at the time when it launched in 1995. And that was in the height of my DJ raving life. I was DJing all over the East Coast at the time, going to 4, I'm not exaggerating, 4 or 5 raves a week. I was in it. And one of my buddies in Philadelphia ran a weekly club night called Yo Man. And I played there every once in a while, but he'd bring all the big DJs into town. He'd play there every Thursday night.
B-roll sound design.
Oh. Well, I totally screwed that up. That shouldn't have any B-roll sound in it at all. Sorry about that, guys. So anyway, my buddy ran a club, and he called me one day on a phone before there were cell phones, and he's like, hey, Sony just contacted me and they want to bring this thing called PlayStation to Yo Man. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, they have a new gaming console and they want to come and set up kiosks at Yo Man and like have at it. And he's like, I know you're a big gamer. Like, what do you think? I'm like, hell yeah. I'm like, bring it in, because at that point, raves and that whole scene, it was like the future. Like, if you go, I mentioned, I think, last week, how they'd show anime. They'd also show these very crude, like, 3D rendered videos where spheres swirl around each other and stuff.
It was very like, we're going to the cyberpunk future.
Pretty much. Like, that's the way it was, yeah.
And there was a big cutting edge attitude.
Yeah. And I was like, well, it fits perfect. I'm like, hell yeah, bring them in. And so he said yes. And that week at Yo Man, we went in there, and there were 6 kiosks with PlayStation, like, dev units in there. And nobody from PlayStation. They came in and set them up and left.
That's happened. There was a rock band had a bunch of kiosks at a Kesha concert at the House of Blues, and it was just there were all these kiosks where you could play Rock Band, and no one was manning them.
Yeah, there was nobody there.
You just go up and play them.
Yeah, and people cut a couple controllers off of the kiosk before the night ended.
That was what I was shocked by.
And it hadn't been released yet.
I was like, how are the guitarists still here?
You have to also remember, it's a rave. So there are people there on drugs or crazy drunk. They didn't care. They literally cut the freaking controllers out of the kiosk. So anyway, that was my first taste of PlayStation at this club that I usually DJ'd at. And then, of course, the news started spreading up between all my friends, like, oh, there's this thing called PlayStation, like, it's not made by Nintendo or Sega, like, what the hell, that's crazy. And then next thing you know, it releases, it starts building some buzz, and it was like 50-50 split between, like, across my friends of people who either bought the N64 or the PlayStation. The people who are really into games tended to buy the N64. The people who used to like video games and were like, hey, maybe this is something I might still like, those are the people who went to PlayStation and bought the PlayStation. It worked out perfect because we had some people that had the PlayStation, some had N64. No matter what, we got to play all the games. And that's typically how it works. So for me, I think, to me, the enduring feature of PlayStation was its ability to draw back in people who had kind of lapsed away from video games for X amount of time. Maybe it was the crash that turned them off, or maybe they bought a Genesis or a Super Nintendo and was like, this isn't for me, I'm not into this anymore. For whatever reason, a lot of those people who lapsed at gaming found the PlayStation and were like, oh, okay, like, this is what it's like now. And I do feel like, and I've argued with Pactor over this a couple times, he does not want to credit PlayStation for ingratiating older players into the industry. He feels like Nintendo would have done that eventually, or Sega would have done that eventually.
I think Nintendo would have done that in the sense of, like, people never really stopped playing Nintendo. And then the N64 drew more attention from my adult friends than anything else ever had before that.
Yeah.
The question is, would Nintendo have made the N64 without the PlayStation in play?
I think it was already.
It was
working with PlayStation on the PlayStation, and then it bailed.
On the PlayStation, bailed out because they didn't want to get into the 3D stuff.
Yeah.
But I believe the PlayStation forced the hand of the other two on 3D.
Maybe.
Because that's certainly what happened with Sega. They were making a 2D powerhouse, and they had to basically bolt a 3D card on the thing, and that's one of the reasons
Saturn.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And I think the N64 may not have been the 3D powerhouse it was without that. Because remember, even their first big thing for the Ultra 64 was Killer Instinct, which used 3D graphics, but it used it for a 2D game for Killer Instinct. Because I think what Nintendo was originally planning to do with the N64 was basically to double down on the Donkey Kong Country thing, using 3D graphics as a 2D game.
Yeah.
And I think they had to really pivot when PlayStation blew up.
Yeah.
So I think both of you are right on that, really. I think eventually it would have happened in some form, but I don't think it would have been in the same form.
I think it would have been more likely that Sega would have done it than Nintendo, though, as far as making games for an older audience.
Well, what I'm saying is I think Nintendo would have retained their audience into their older years regardless, because they've done that.
Yeah.
They did that anyway. Sega, like, I think so. They would have retained me. I don't know. Without Sony, I don't know if you can really make that call, because the industry without Sony post 1995 is a different world.
I wonder, like, what would the industry be like today if there was never a PlayStation? If Sony never entered the console space?
I don't think it would be as big as it is.
I don't either. I really don't.
I think it would be big, but I don't think it would be. I mean, people underestimate how broadly the PlayStation, the PS2 spread in a way that just doesn't have an equivalent in non-handheld spaces.
Yep.
I'll tell you my PlayStation 1 story, which is a little darker than yours. Because I didn't get one until right before Final Fantasy VII was coming out, because I didn't care. And so I remember I bought it with Wild Arms, and that was like my first game I bought with the PlayStation 1. But the first time I played a PlayStation 1 was around launch, and the reason this happened is because in my sophomore year of college, I had a roommate when I first got there, and he had transferred there from another state to be with his girlfriend. And when I found out who his girlfriend was, I was like, oh no. Because the girlfriend had lived next door to my friend the year before and was basically had a revolving door on her dorm room for the rugby team. And like they were and so that happened, and that all came out, and it was all horrible. And basically like about 2 months into the semester, he attempted something very drastic. And we had to chase, like, my other roommates and I, because we were in a suite with like multiple, and we had to chase him down and like get a knife away from him. Like we basically tackle him and stop him, and he got taken away. And then I had my own room for a while. And then they gave me a new roommate who was the boyfriend of one of my other, that same friend, that her suite mate, her boyfriend transferred to the school and coincidentally got assigned to my room. And he, among a bunch of other weird odd jobs he did, he was a delivery guy for the Imaginarium, which you may or may not remember was like a learning toy store. It was like the museum company or the nature company kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he delivered a metric ton of toys to Robin Williams' house for his son's birthday. And
his daughter's named Zelda, by the way.
Right, yeah. So this is for his son, who's not named after a video game, as far as I know. Younger, I think. But so he delivered all these toys. Robin gave him a tour of the whole house and did all this shtick for him, and tipped him like some obscene amount, like $500.
Wow.
And so on his way home, he bought a PlayStation and a bunch of games. And so we just played like NFL Game Day, Battle Arena, Toshinden, and Destruction Derby for like the rest of the semester, and almost all failed because of it. So that was my introduction to PlayStation, was that. Then I eventually bought my own to play in the run up to Final Fantasy VII, and I just got like a bunch. I got Wild Arms and Suikoden and all that stuff, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of great RPGs on this thing. And then Final Fantasy came out, and I didn't like it. I was like, well, at least I got this for other things anyway.
I definitely think PlayStation expedited the process of games are a thing for kids. Now games are a thing that adults can play and not be embarrassed by it. I do think eventually somebody would have done it. If it weren't Nintendo and Nintendo decided to stay family friendly, it could have been Sega. Do you think Xbox and Microsoft would have ever entered the console space if it weren't for PlayStation? That's maybe a better question.
It depends if things blow up the way they did. Because, like, Bill Gates had his eye on it anyway. I don't know if they would have committed the resources they did if PlayStation hadn't made everything kind of more cool. Certainly it was easy. I mean, when I got to college, there were tons of people who were not, like, hardcore gaming nerds who, like, they would play Genesis stuff and Super Nintendo stuff every night. Like, there were regular Mortal Kombat 2 and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo tournaments in my dorm from the fucking football players and soccer players were doing. Right. Like, it wasn't like a bunch of dorks in a room. Like, there was like dudes. I lived in the dorm with the soccer players, and like almost every other night somebody would lean out their room and be like, Mortal Kombat tournament down here, everybody get in here. And so it was not like a niche thing for the boys.
It was the whole floor of your dorm. Yeah.
And then as soon as this started happening, the other guys across the bathroom in the suite, those guys were all like lacrosse dudes, and they would bring their other bro friends into. He's like, dude, you got to see what these games look like. And they used to do that too with my, because I had a gaming PC of the time, and I had like X-Wing and TIE Fighter and like kind of the high end, and like Marathon 2 they were very impressed by, but nothing blew them away like NFL Game Day.
Yeah.
Nothing hooked. Like, we had a fucking whiteboard that my friend Jeff was on. He got a whiteboard. He's like, we need a whiteboard to like keep track of the brackets, and like
it's crazy looking at it now.
Oh yeah, but like man,
it's nuts.
This was, I mean, they took this as seriously as you take fantasy football.
Oh yeah,
like I'd never seen a bunch of quote unquote cool people take video games so seriously.
Oh, I mean, this game played very, very well. I mean, that's what it was. It was like the first 3D football game that played well.
One of the things they loved was that they could beat me at it.
Right, because they couldn't beat you at anything else.
Because they're like, dude, the fact that I know more about football than you actually matters. It doesn't matter that you're good at video games. I can beat you at football because I know more about football. That's amazing. And like they were all so hyped about that.
Yeah.
This
I mean,
actually
huge...
looks better than.
Well, this is also running on an emulator.
So
yeah.
it doesn't. I remember a lot more of a fuzz.
Oh yeah, this is running on an emulator. That's where that footage is coming from. But to your point, like again, like even just in like my rave scene, like there weren't any jocks or people that like sports or nerds or people that liked video games, but PlayStation transcended. Like it also was smart with that scene in particular because it had games like Wipeout where it literally had the music from our scene in the game.
Yeah, Wipeout XL was a big deal with all my music friends.
Oh yeah,
like, I knew people who bought a console to play
it was a console seller.
And like the other thing that same kind of group, especially the people that I knew from like concerts and from one of the reasons a bunch of them, some bought it because it was a good audio player because that original version with the RCA outs.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons they loved it was when I showed them that on a bunch of the different games you could open the thing in the middle of the game and put your own music CD and it would keep playing your music while you played like Ridge Racer or whatever.
Yeah.
And they thought that was the coolest fucking thing they'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And like it was like this weird confluence of like the games they had, the tech they were using, and what the hardware could do.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I was a bit of a snob at times. I was like, oh, the N64 looks so much better. Like these games look like they're about to fall apart or whatever.
Oh, for sure.
But for social reasons, like going over to my buddy's house and he'd just have it Tekken set up, and we just start. We'd get a 6-pack. We start drinking. Next thing you know, we're playing Tekken all night.
Oh yeah. I mean,
all night.
In the end, more people I knew on a regular day-to-day, like my friend groups, they played N64 more. Mm-hmm. But everyone had a PlayStation.
Yeah.
And the breadth of it was stunning. Like 97, the year I got the PlayStation, obviously for that Christmas, I brought the PlayStation home from college with me with Parappa the Rapper because that had come out.
Yeah.
And I brought it to a Christmas party with all my old high school friends. And that is all we did.
Yeah.
Like
we
were all 21, 22, whatever. We had a house party and actually the guy who owned our old catering business that ran the cafeteria at our high school. We had this big party there, and I set that up in the family room where the TV was, and like half the party, all they did was play Parappa all night. Mm-hmm. And like I was like, wow, like that was remarkable. And everyone's like, I've never seen anything like this before. And it wasn't just that the graphics were what they were, because obviously they're not, Parappa was not a graphical tour de force.
Yeah.
But it was just the fact they'd never seen a music game before. Yeah. Because there was no, I was running the original music game.
I mean, look at all this B-roll we've been showing. Think about all the properties that still exist today that people still love that started on the PlayStation.
Yep. And
it's insane.
To this day, when I go home for Christmas this year, I'm going to see those people and I can just say, kick punch, it's all in the mind, and they will finish the fucking Master Onion song for me.
But see, only PlayStation
you gotta believe.
Yeah.
Like
only PlayStation had games like that.
Yeah.
Like Nintendo's games all kind of looked the same, played the same.
They have the same, and they didn't have voice.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the music. Like
music didn't sound good.
Like there's a bunch. I mean, obviously, my friends remember the New Year's party that I brought the N64 to, and that was a big deal because that was at my friends who had a huge mansion. They rolled out this like 60-inch projection TV to the indoor pool, and we sat in like the hot tub and played Mario and Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah.
And everyone remembers that because that was like everyone wanted to turn on Mario.
Oh yeah.
But like this, they remember that moment. But there are people who remember and who aren't even play video games today. They don't play video games at all. They only play video games when I'd make them, basically, or showed them things, and they remember those PlayStation games.
Oh yeah, just think of all the IP: Tekken, Resident Evil, Crash Bandicoot, Metal Gear Solid. I mean, you just go on and on and on, and those properties still matter today. 30 years later, there's still some of those anticipated games that are released. Mm-hmm. So it's really amazing.
And actually, one of the other things that's interesting about that is how much it changed the perception of what games were. Because at one point in '97, or maybe it was '98, it was around there, same time. I brought the PlayStation down to see my friend who was at Stanford because I wanted to show him and his friends, his roommates, and people that I knew down there. I wanted because they like games. They were all tech majors and stuff except for him. And I'm like, I want to show you this new game. It was Symphony of the Night. And I showed them Symphony of the Night because I'm like, this is one of the greatest things I've played in forever. Mm-hmm. And almost all of them were like, why does it look like that? Because it wasn't 3D.
Yeah. The expectations have changed already.
Oh, weird. Like, you guys don't think this is impressive because it's not a 3D game. And like, basically they made me pack it up so we could go do something else.
Yep.
That was the end of it. And they were the funny thing was they were just, the disappointment came after that opening scene where it rotates around the castle. and then it cuts to like him like running down.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what happened to the graphics? And I'm like, the castle looks terrible. What are you fucking talking about? But I did always say it, even at the time, like on Usenet and stuff. I was saying stuff like, these games are not going to age well because they look awful now, and they're going to look.
They haven't.
And a lot of people just couldn't imagine anything looking better than Metal Gear Solid. So they're like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, these games are not. The fact that no one has fingers is going to be weird in about 10 years, right?
It didn't even take that long.
No, it didn't. It really didn't.
Yeah.
Like Metal Gear Solid 2, pretty much. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
Like if you showed that to someone when Metal Gear Solid 1 came out, they would have been like, what witchcraft?
Yeah, their brains would have exploded. But it is crazy. Someone in chat just brought up Gran Turismo, Retro Modern Gamer.
Yeah.
There's so many properties that launched on PlayStation that still matter today. Tomb Raider. I mean, we could just go on and on. Like, it really was kind of a magical moment in time that I don't think we'll ever see again. I just don't think it's feasible that we could see those days again. It
was accidental, but there was also a thing about the black discs.
Yeah.
It had like a weird mystique to it.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the industry would be entirely different if PlayStation had never entered it. Yeah. I think it would have dragged its feet a lot longer. I don't think we would have started really seeing the proliferation of games targeted at adults until like the early aughts instead of the late 90s.
Because Sega did that, and Sega would have done that, but like there's something about Sega's sensibilities, especially at that time, and they appealed greatly to me, but they did not appeal greatly to someone outside of the geek space for some reason.
And that's what PlayStation did.
And Sega never quite figured that out. I mean, even on the PS2, their stuff was niche because they felt like those old Saturn games in a way that just did not translate to people who didn't want to, like I love Shinobi and Nightshade to the end of the earth. But I would never put that in the hands of a random casual person. Like,
I mean, bottom line is PlayStation made it acceptable for adults to play video games. I really feel like that might be the crowning achievement of PlayStation as a brand.
Yeah, I mean, it made gaming more of a thing that everyone did.
Yeah, instead of just tweens and kids. And
I think that was somewhat inevitable just because our generation grew up with them, and it wasn't a weird thing to keep playing them. But like, PlayStation made that basically a mass media acknowledgement. There was a mass media acknowledgement of that, and I think it's significant that like when someone would report on video games in the news or whatever, they for a long time they would call them Nintendo. Yeah, playing Nintendo,
like rollerblades,
and then it became playing PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I just do want to note that it took me like I think 20 years to get the PlayStation joke.
No.
It's workstation PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's what? Okay. just like I didn't understand Game Boy and Walkman.
Right.
And for a long time. It's just a little too far. A little too far from my brain. But then I'm also the person that took 9 years to understand Tails' name.
Right.
Miles Prower.
Yeah.
Because EGM, when they reported on it, said his name was Miles Tails Prower. Get it? And I'm like, no. Because I was saying it with Tails in the middle of it. I'm like, Miles Tails. What does that mean? What's the joke? His name's Miles? Because
Ridge Racer, Fire Native's bringing up.
Yeah, Ridge Racer and Rage Racer.
Yep. Silk Snake says demo discs were games to me. It's all we could afford. Yeah, a lot of people were that way.
PlayStation Underground was a big deal. Yeah. The fact you could get these discs with the magazines.
Yeah.
And
my first job in the industry was working with that magazine and like coordinating all the website crap for that magazine. And the other thing too is I entered the industry at the tail end of PlayStation at GameSpot. And when I went in there, like, I had lived in my own world where, I just described what my world was. And they were living in their own world. And their world was PlayStation, man. Like, I went into GameSpot and I was shocked at how big of PlayStation fans everybody was there. Like, I figured, like, most people were like me. And they're like, I respect the PlayStation because it's brought these new people in. But if I'm actually playing games, I'm probably going to play my PC or I'm going to play my N64. They were not. They hated the N64 at GameSpot. They hated it. Like, Jeff gave Ocarina of Time a 10 out of 10 and then proceeded to lowball every N64 game ever after that. And I feel like he thought, like, well, I already gave Ocarina of Time a 10, so I can just do whatever the F I want now, and no one's going to question me, because I already proved that I don't hate Nintendo by giving Ocarina of Time the 10. It was weird. Like, I remember I went in there, and I was just at least open-minded to the N64, and I was looked down upon. Like, I was like the weirdo at GameSpot.
I don't think I had a favorite. I mean, I probably favored the Saturn, if anything, because it had Panzer Dragoon Saga and my other favorite one on there was Dragon Force. But like I was not under any I wasn't like one of the weird Sega fans that was under any delusion that the Saturn was competitive.
Right.
You know, it was like that thing was clearly on the way out. The way out before it even came out.
Yeah.
Right. $299 was the end of that system. The day one.
Yeah.
That was the end of it. Well, I loved it, but like I'm trying to think like I wasn't as in love with the N64 as some of my other friends were, but I still like the highest highs of that generation were.
I just like the multiplayer part of it.
We played a lot of
plug in 4
multiplayer.
controllers and.
But like if I was going to play something at home, it was probably a PlayStation game.
Yeah.
Or a Saturn game. N64 really was a multiplayer system.
Yeah, for sure.
To the core.
Four ports. First.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing with that. I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, obviously, Ocarina, all the rare stuff, all the 3D platformer stuff, except for Donkey Kong 64. Fuck that game. A lot of that stuff, like I played.
That Saber brings up Dino Crisis. We could go on and on about
like,
the PlayStation.
But yeah,
IP.
most of my memories of that era, certainly in my dorm room, were a lot of PlayStation stuff.
That's what the mainstream
weird PlayStation shit. Like,
anything. I would watch like the people at GameSpot play these god awful obscure PlayStation games, and they wouldn't play like the biggest N64 game that just came out.
Well, the things that got like a lot of people in my room were like Star Wars Masters of Terras Kasi got like 5 people showed up to play that game, and they didn't know enough about fighting games or video games in general to know that this game sucked. They were just like they loved that they were able to swing a lightsaber around and that you could make it say Luke Skywalker versus Hor.
Yeah,
because that was the name of the Tusken Raider for some reason, and like that kind of thing. It was it was a universal situation. What was the
Erebus says my first job out of school was working in an independent game around the middle. I can't. You guys got to type better, folks. You have to have complete sentences. Emperor Dread brings up Body Harvest. Console war was over. Okay, we gotta get going here. So anyway, there are our thoughts about PlayStation launching, its effect on the industry. Now we're gonna do something fun and kind of difficult. We're going to rank the 7 PlayStation platforms in order of awesome. I know that's a metric that you can measure. But basically, we're just going to say what's the best PlayStation console. We're going to count them down. And we're going to include, obviously, if we have 7, we're going to include the PSP and the Vita. We're not including PlayStation VR or PlayStation VR 2. So let's start at the bottom, Matt. Number 7. I think it's pretty easily either Vita or PlayStation 3.
Oh, no, I would say it's Vita or PSP.
Or PSP.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And actually, I would pick PSP.
Really? It's the worst.
I played the Vita more.
You did?
I did.
Wow.
Because it played PSP stuff and it played Vita stuff. And then
But it didn't take UMDs, though.
No, but you could get digital copies.
Yeah.
Which I generally did. Because I liked the form factor of the Vita more. And the screen was better.
Wow. So I would have PSP at, like, 3rd from worst. To me, the worst is the Vita. Because it had no first-party software support. We talked last week about the handhelds and the proprietary media for it, how it sucked. Like, I mean, the hardware itself was awesome. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, the Vita and the PSP are both bottom tier, no question for me. And PlayStation 3 would be next up.
Yeah. I think we could agree that those are the bottom 3 at least.
Yeah, definitely. I would say PSP, Vita, PS3.
And I would go Vita, PS3, PSP.
There's just not a way in. There's no possible way in hell I would put any of the consoles below one of the portables. The portables both are terrible.
Well, maybe my experience is different.
The PS3 gave us Killzone. It gave us Uncharted. It gave us Metal Gear Solid 4. It gave it like there's nothing equivalent on the PSP. There's nothing that matches up to the place. It gave us the Infamous games. It gave us the Resistance games. It gave us 2 of the greatest Ratchet and Clank games. There is just no competition.
No, you're probably right. I think you're right. I think you've actually changed my opinion on that. I think you're right. I think the PS3 is better than the PSP.
100%.
But I do think
PSP and Vita, like you can go back and forth. Depends
to me, the
like
PSP
more.
destroys Vita. And maybe my experience is different because I literally have so many PSP games. I have a whole wall of them of retail games. It's probably 60 or 70 maybe. And then I literally, Matt, and I think I mentioned this last week as well, I have a Ziploc that's this big and like this that is full of UMDs. I mean, there's probably 500 UMDs. I'm not exaggerating. Like, there was a shit ton of PSP games released.
But now show me the bag of ones that are worth playing.
I mean, I don't know.
There was very little on the PSP that I found of value, other than
I'm just trying to say why I think it's better than the Vita.
Sure, I just don't think that's better than the Vita, especially because the Vita can still play most of those games and plays them a little better in some places. They're both terrible systems, but like I like the Vita a little better just in terms of not hurting my hand as much, and like the main value of the PSP to me was they finally there was a way to play the Ys series. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of Persona stuff too, like a lot of Shin Megami Tensei stuff. Like it was a great place for Atlas RPGs, which is so
Japanese
weird.
games.
Like, but like a lot of those were better digitally on the Vita anyway. So like it depends where you want to kind of lay the thing. But in terms of if I'm gonna pick up a PSP or a Vita to play one of those games, I'm gonna pick up the Vita every time.
Yeah,
it's just a better thing to hold in my hand. In terms of the actual libraries, sure, the Vita's not as good.
I mean, I played PSP thousands of hours. I seriously think I played my Vita for maybe 100 hours.
I'd be stunned if I played 100 hours of PSP.
Really?
Yeah.
So we're opposites in that way then.
I don't think I played the Vita anywhere near that long either, but you're probably talking about 100 hours versus like 200.
Yeah. I literally played my Vita for like 100 hours. Ever. Because there's nothing to play.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was on the Vita, I was mostly playing PSP games.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't that mean that the PSP's
no,
better?
because I didn't play them on PSP because the PSP fucking sucks.
I mean, the loading times and the
load
UMD
time
media,
sucks, the
battery life.
Sucks, my fucking arms and my hands, I hated playing that.
I mean, it's crazy to think that there was a handheld with a disc drive with moving parts.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, and then you could hear it.
You could hear it, yeah.
Like, or,
cha-chunk,
like,
cha-chunk, cha-chunk.
or on the plane, and you could feel it. I'm like,
moving.
Something's coming up because it's loading.
Yep, it's true. How do you guys feel? Did you guys like the Vita or the PSP more? Zed Saber Juno says in defense of Vita, the PS TV was a good idea. That actually, you could do that on PSP as well. We actually just showed B-roll of that last week.
The Game Gear could do that.
Yeah, a lot of them could play on TVs. Silk Snake says I played Uncharted on Vita last week.
You could watch TV on it.
Silk Snake's experience with Vita is a lot like mine. He played Uncharted, and then after that, like hardly ever played.
You know what the Vita exclusive I played the most probably was? Shinobi Do 2.
I never even played it.
It's Tenchu.
Oh.
It's just Tenchu.
Yeah.
With the fucking serial number filed off. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I don't even know if there was a Shinobi Do. If there was a Shinobi Do 1, I never heard about it. But.
Yeah. Link So Good says I have 3 broken PSPs and 3 working ones. Cinetype chooses a PSP because of the piracy. That doesn't count. We're not going to count that part of it.
I took the battery out of my PSP last week.
And we talked about how it's exploded.
It was
we talked about it. Mine too. Yeah, that's another problem that system has for sure. Squishy says he chooses Vita because it introduced him to Persona 4 Golden.
That does actually elevate it pretty hard. I did play a lot. That's probably the game I played the most of the launch titles. It was Shinobi Do 2, but Persona 4 Golden is the thing I played the most on that system, no question.
Yeah. It looks like most people are like a split on those two.
Atlas was fucking carrying both those systems on their back.
Which is odd.
You cared about Atlas games, fucking paradise. If you didn't, and even if you did, I mean, I certainly did. I cared a lot about Atlas games, and mostly I'd just be like, I wish these were on anything else. Why don't you have PS3 versions?
Yeah. So we agree that the PS3 is next after the two handhelds.
Yes. PS3, I'm not hating on the PS3, but it's definitely the bottom of the 5 consoles for me.
Yeah, I mean, I have. To me, the PS3 was a lot like a Nintendo console. I played only the exclusives on it, all the third-party stuff. And even though the third-party stuff got better towards the end, I had already been conditioned to play that on 360.
Yeah, you're already invested in the other ecosystem.
Yeah,
and it just didn't match up. Never. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so that's PS3 solid at number 5?
5, yeah.
At number 5. Now it starts to get a little more difficult, I think.
Not for me.
No?
No. I know it's not done yet, but this is where I slot PS5.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot yet. Maybe eventually I will. I cannot yet call PS5 better than 1, 2, or 4.
Maybe better than 1. But the 1 was so groundbreaking.
I mean, now, yeah. But like then, no.
Yeah.
No. But I just told you some of the most formative memories of my 20s.
Yeah.
Like in terms of video
games.
Mine
too. Yeah.
And like PS5 simply hasn't done that.
I agree. The software output's been very slow.
Yeah.
I start thinking about like iconic games that I've played on my PlayStation 5. Can't think of a ton of those.
Certainly not ones you could also play on your PS4, which if that is what we're judging the PSP and Vita by, the PS5 has almost equal to Vita in terms of something that's exclusive to it.
Yeah. So I think I would agree with that. I think PS5 at number 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Number 4. Sorry. Okay. Next. This is where it gets real tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would slot... Oh,
I know what I put here, but we'll see. I'm interested in what you have.
I think I would put the OG PlayStation here.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
We agree on that one. And then this is the toughest one.
It's not for me.
Okay, so we're down to PS2 or PS4 is the greatest PlayStation console ever.
Yep. This is absolutely zero difficulty for me.
I think the PlayStation 2 is Sony's best console ever.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It
100%.
is the console that really took gaming mainstream. It is still, maybe not for much longer, but it is still the best-selling console of all time.
Every once in a while, Nintendo announces something, and Sony's like, "Oh, by the way, we sold another." I'm like, "How many fucking of these did you sell?" And you're just not telling us about it until Nintendo gets another milestone.
They're out now.
Yeah.
So that the person who was there when they finished the run of PS2 said they only built like a little over 100, over 160 million.
All
so
right.
that's it. That's their last update. So Switch is going to beat it eventually.
Okay, so that's the last James Cameron they can
Right.
do. Yeah.
So for me, PS4 though is freaking amazing.
PS4 is a
man.
beast. No
It
question.
really is. Like you go back and you look at it. Also started building the digital library for a lot of people for the first time. Some you could maybe argue that the PlayStation 4 is the most important PlayStation console of all time, except for maybe the first one, because it kind of established these digital libraries that has basically made PlayStation bulletproof into perpetuity.
I mean, I think there's an argument. I would still say that two is more important, just in terms of it solidified that Sony is games.
Also,
to a whole generation, and I don't think without the sheer magnitude of what PlayStation 2 did, I don't think Sony survives PlayStation 3.
Oh, probably not. I mean, in fact, Sean Layden just did an interview yesterday where he says that.
Yeah.
He's like, we flew too close to the sun with PlayStation 3. We were full of ourselves, and we got
100%.
burned, and we were lucky that PlayStation survived the PlayStation 3.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So they're not even delusional about it. They totally know that they almost literally ruined their entire brand with the PlayStation. Then that to me is why
Cyber World almost took them out.
And that to me is why I was weighing PS3 on that lower end,
No, it's
because it
definitely-
literally almost ended PlayStation.
Oh, yeah. But in terms of me as someone who had fun with things, it definitely beats the two handhelds.
Yeah.
Without any
Again, after you
question.
explained it, I agreed.
And it's like, yeah, the cell processor is still a problem for them because they're having so much trouble getting all that shit off that console and onto a current one outside of streaming.
A lot of mistakes there.
Like we're about to Metal Gear Solid 4 is trapped on that fucking system.
Yeah.
Like, and we're about to, I guess we'll see if the volume 2 of the Master Collection actually includes 4, because otherwise I don't know why you're even doing those
I
collections.
would be surprised.
I don't know why you're doing those collections if you're not going to bring 4 forward.
All right, so now Matt and I have passed our judgment. Let's see what you guys are saying the best PlayStation console of all time is. ETH says PS1 is number 1 and it's not close. Okay. Vincent says the 4 isn't even done yet. Oh, wait, we got to scroll up here. Silk Snake says PS3 is my favorite console ever. Okay. Again, everybody has their own impressions, because a lot of it is about, like, what point of your life you are at. Did you have a lot of money then? Were you broke then? Like, all this stuff plays into it. What kind of job did you have? Like, what kind of people were you hanging around with at the time? All that stuff matters as far as, like, your impressions of what makes something awesome or not. So there's really no right answer, I guess, is the best way to put it. Erebus says 241 easy, so like basically like us. Link So Good says I have most nostalgia for PS1. Fire Native says PS5 is better than PS4 because it's a PS4 and a PS5. Silk Snake says PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, and then PlayStation 4. Andy T. Monahan agrees with us, PlayStation 2. Pharaoh Doll says PS2. Tiny Blip says either 2 or 4, so he's with us on the first 2 picks. Squishy Muffin, are you considering if you played said games today? No, we tried to ignore that if we could.
Although I would say that one of the strengths of 2 is also that most of that stuff holds up. Mm-hmm. Like, in a way that PS1 games simply
were
do
the
not.
first 3D games that would hold up over time, at least a little bit.
Not saying they're amazing, but
Right.
you can play most
You can
of
still
that
play
today
'em.
and not, like, throw up.
Yep. ETH Demon. Oh, ETH Demon changed. He said PS2. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Next to Twa says PS2 is the one that they have the fondest memories of. Erebus Jones says PS4 was great. It was. Link So Good says PS2 was the first console I stood in line for all night at Target. Yeah, that stuff matters too.
I didn't get a PS2 until the GT3 bundle came out.
Yeah, a lot of people did. I mean, that bundle sold like gangbusters.
And I really only got it because I was starting to work at TechTV, and I'm like, I guess I probably should have one of these now. And that seemed like the best deal was to get GT with it.
Cinetike says PS2 for me, though I've mostly been PC all my life. Any more? Minority Game says PS Vita is the best. It means life, and that is true. Link So Good says PS2 was also
not
my
life
first
for it.
Yeah, Link So Good also reminds us that for a lot of people, the PS2 was everyone's first DVD player.
I mean, when that thing hit like the ability to actually go in and buy it without waiting in line, like I remember Best Buy was just packing it with the Matrix, the best-selling DVD at the time. Like all it was just like, here's your DVD player and your Matrix
and
copy.
the movie you want for it. Yeah. So there you go. That's our ranking of all the PlayStation consoles ever. We came to a determination that PS2 is the winner, with PS4 coming in a close second, which is pretty awesome. That the industry is so mature, and PS4 still had a chance to take the #1 spot. So, PlayStation, congratulations on 30 years. There's your round of applause for surviving 3 decades in this industry.
And make sure you go turn on your PlayStation.
Right. Because there's a surprise for you.
Yeah,
we won't spoil it here. You may know if you
use
SIFTD.
People already talked about a bunch of stuff about it a lot.
But people who don't use SIFTD may
if
not
you don't know what we're talking about, go turn on your PlayStation.
Yeah, your PS5. Actually, it's all of them, right?
I think it's everything. Yeah. Anything that connects to the internet and updates still.
Yep. Okay, well, let's move on to our final topic of episode 414. We're going to take a look at the big 3 in 2024, go through all the games that were released for all 3 of the consoles, and try to figure out which ones are headed in the right direction and which ones are headed in the wrong direction. The first thing I'm going to say about this, Matt, is I was shocked at how many really good games came out this year. I had this negative overarching opinion of the industry this year, and a lot of it I think is just comparing it to last year, which was incredible. I think any year is going to pale in comparison to what we got last year, and I'm thinking maybe 2025 is going to be another 2023. We'll see. We don't know what's coming out yet, but there should be a bunch of really awesome stuff coming out. But 2024 wasn't as bad as I thought once I started putting everything down. And in fact, I think more than anything...
It wasn't an all-timer, but it was pretty good. It was fine.
I think 2024 in particular for PlayStation was way better than I thought.
Yes.
And because...
I'm trying to tell you that.
Because I look at the output of the first party. I'm like, okay, what did PlayStation Studios put out? And if you look at that, it was a pretty pathetic year for PlayStation again.
Most people do not look at it like
They don't. They just look at it like what exclusive games came out for that platform.
Yeah, and they look at it, there's a more holistic view that you can take.
And, I mean, you start looking at it, you got Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Not a game that I really enjoyed, but everybody else enjoyed the living hell out of it and still are. Like, it's still a big game on both PlayStation and PC. It was, to me, just kind of a extraction cooperative third-person shooter with a knockoff of, a movie that I really liked. But for everybody else, it was so much more. It was one of the biggest hits of the earlier part of the year. And again, it was just as a big a hit on PC as it was on PlayStation. So Helldivers 2 was a very pleasant surprise. Then you have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which wasn't a pleasant surprise. It wasn't a surprise at all. It's something people had waited a really long time for, but it delivered. This is going to be in a lot of discussions here over the next few weeks for Game of the Year, I think. Even though it didn't sell worth a crap, apparently, it is a really good video game. And I still recommend to you, if you have not got this yet, to ask for it for Christmas, because now you can get it on the cheap. It's been discounted a bunch of times. And so if you've been sitting, waiting to jump and get this game, I say get it now. But big exclusive, but again, a third-party exclusive. It wasn't one that PlayStation created. And then kind of the crowning jewel, Astrobot, that just came out recently. One of the best games, also a game that's going to be in discussion for Game of the Year here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think most Game of the Year competitions are between this and Rebirth.
Yeah. And it shows...
I didn't care for Rebirth, but in terms of like just sort of the general sentiment, it feels like it's between this and Final Fantasy.
Well, it shows also the forward thinking of PlayStation here, because this game is a celebration of PlayStation on its 30th anniversary. So this wasn't like flying by the seat of their pants type deal, which it seemed like when they announced it, like they hadn't talked about it. It seemed like it came out of nowhere. No. They had been planning and working on this game for a really long time, and it delivered. It is undoubtedly one of the better games of 2024. Then you move on to Stellar Blade, a game that Matt and I are probably considering for our Game of the Year for 2024.
I don't know who you're talking about. This doesn't even make the top 10.
I'm joking. Obviously, we both slagged this game for how sexualized it was, but
and just how boring it was. You want to have less than the sum of its part. I don't understand why people went so nuts over. I mean, I do.
Yeah, you do.
But like the thing that cracks me up about it, I guess, is that she's such a nothing.
Yeah.
She has no personality. She's not a character. There's nothing there. Like
some people like their women that way, Matt.
Well, yeah, because then they're malleable and controllable.
Right.
But like, she's nobody. She's like you sit here and you put a gun to my head and try to get me to characterize this woman whose game I played for like 30 hours. I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing about
her personality or anything.
This is not Lara Croft. Like, Lara Croft is an actual character. I don't know what she is, an ass with a sword.
Pretty much.
Like, that's all it is.
And that'll sell you some video games for sure.
It didn't sell that well.
Yeah, it didn't sell that well. It sold 1 million or 2, something like that.
Yeah. It sold. I mean, everyone's
enough to get a sequel though.
Well, everyone's running around saying it like, what was the game that Outlaws is a huge failure. I'm like, Outlaws in this game sold about the same. Yeah. So it's they're either failures or successes, like one or the other. Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yep. So there was Stellar Blade, then there was Black Myth Wukong, another game that I felt feels a little overrated. I liked it, but I don't think it's a Game of the Year nominee at the Game Awards. I don't think it's worthy of that.
No, I think this getting nominated for so many things kind of just is more an indictment on 2024 than anything else. Like, it's good. I mean, I did like it, but it's just not. I don't think it's anything particularly special. There's some cool stuff in it. Like, I like the tech, but it's like when you get down to it, it's basically the same kind of thing I played. I don't know how many times.
It felt unremarkable to me, but. Pretty, plays okay.
Yeah, looks cool. I really appreciate the kind of the aesthetic of it, like how like kind of the weird like mystical but hyper real. I like that look to it. It kind of actually kind of like an MCU kind of style
a little
to
bit.
It. And I like that they did a really good job of not making his various equipment and clothing clip into each other. Like, I always like it when somebody does that.
Yeah, that's worth mentioning. Next up, Rise of the Ronin. Another third-party exclusive for PlayStation 5.
I loaded this up on the Pro just to see if it looked any. I cannot remember how to play this game if you fucking held a gun to my head. Like I fought like 2 randos like out in the street, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I couldn't even remember how to fucking parry properly.
This game took Koei Tecmo almost 10 years to create,
That's
and
crazy.
It just kind of came and went with a whimper. Like,
I think most people wouldn't even remember this came out this year.
Yeah, I know. There was a couple people on SIFTD who were kind of standing for it a little bit, but
I liked it fine.
Yeah,
like I didn't dislike it. I just didn't find it super compelling.
It had some cool stuff, like that whole riding on your horse and like tethering yourself up to a roof is cool. Like,
like it had enough tenshu to it that like that was very pleasant, and like I kind of liked what they were after. I like what they're the world is interesting. Like, it's a different take on kind of the this era than like a lot of the other games that have taken place in that era.
It's an ugly game.
It's not very nice looking.
Remember we have some footage for that trailer where there's just all this goofy stuff happening in the background. Like, again, it took them 10 years to make this game. It went through a bunch of different iterations, and still when it came out, it felt unfinished.
Yeah,
I do
think that, I mean, I haven't looked at what it's been on sale for or whatever, but you can get this thing for like under 30. Like, it's a good time for that amount of money.
Yeah,
no question.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into this kind of thing.
Yeah,
like there's that one shot right there where he goes to run back to the ladder in the middle of a fight.
Like, nope, I gotta get to the high ground.
Next up, Silent Hill 2 Remake, another third-party partnership. It's funny, like PlayStation seems to be the only one left that still does this. Nintendo every once in a while, but PlayStation still follows this model of we're gonna money hat third parties, and they're gonna make games exclusive for our platform.
I mean, it's their bread and butter, and also
it's been a strategy for decades.
And also, like, it does like. Do you really lose a ton by not being on Xbox?
It doesn't feel like
not
it.
Really.
Yeah, at this point, like, why would you even pay for this anymore?
I mean, well, yeah, it's like, I mean, that's probably part of it. Is like, okay, we'll pay you the amount of money that you estimate you would lose by not being on Xbox, and it's just like to Sony, that's probably just like a pretty small price to pay for exclusivity on some of these things.
Yeah. And then the last 2 games that were exclusives for 2024 are the Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut and The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered.
Although, of course, a lot of these are on PC.
Right, yeah. And those are the exclusive games for PlayStation in 2024. What kind of letter grade do you give the PlayStation 5 for 2024's exclusives?
You know, this is a really hard year to make these estimations because I'll tell you 95% of the stuff I played this year is on PC.
Mm-hmm.
I have not turned those consoles on in like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think back. I mean, Astrobot helps it a lot.
A lot.
a lot.
Because it's the second Sony produced game of the year.
I'm gonna say for PlayStation, we're just talking about PlayStation because a lot of these games I loved, but I played them on PC.
Right. But they're still on PlayStation.
Sorta. So. I mean, it depends. I mean, but I didn't play them on play. Didn't need a PS5 to play Silent Hill 2 or Ghost of Tsushima Remastered or Director's Cut or whatever. Or, I did. We're talking about a year of Astrobot, Final Fantasy Rebirth, Rise of the Ronin, and probably that other one. And I played Helldivers on PS5.
Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, Rise of the Ronin.
I played Black Myth Wukong on PC.
I'll give him a B.
I'm gonna say C+, and I would probably be closer to a D if Astrobot hadn't come out.
Really? Wow, I thought you would like the lineup more than me, actually. I thought you'd score higher than me.
Again, I'm kind of... I mean, that lineup's really good, but it's not only on PlayStation. That's not what I played on PS5.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I have a PC as well.
The PS5, but that's one of the reasons I wasn't super hot to get the Pro, because I wasn't even really using the PS5 this year.
I still think that's a B, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 exclusives, although 2 of them are remakes.
Again, a lot of those are not exclusives to me because they're on PC. Like, I can play a better version of them on another platform.
Yeah, that matters, for sure. You just can't play it on another console.
Yeah, sure.
And we are comparing the consoles against each other. Like, I tried to get PC in here, but it didn't have enough exclusives to make it really matter. Although, when we get to Xbox, you may be wondering,
I certainly have my impressions in line, and I'm... a lot of the stuff you mentioned there was not... the good stuff in there... Even if I'm counting them not on PC, you're really just talking about... And it's hard to count Ghost of Tsushima because I've already played that game twice. You're really just talking about Silent Hill at that point.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I think a C+ is about where I land on that.
Okay. I'm going to go flat B. Next up, Nintendo Switch. The Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. Probably the first game that we should mention, even though it's not made by the main Zelda team. It was a unique... Zelda game that is not a remake or a remaster. It was a brand new take on the Zelda franchise. Obviously, you got to play as Princess instead of playing as Link, which was it seemed like a big deal when the game was first announced. After I played it, it didn't feel like as big a deal. It's kind of like everything everyone was talking about before the game came out, and I started playing it, and I'm like, does it really matter whether I'm playing her or Link? Not really.
No, really, you're playing as a moderately imaginative moving company.
Pretty much. That's funny. So you had Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and here's a game that a lot of people may have forgotten about, Princess Peach Showtime. Peach finally getting her own game again for the first time in way too long.
I haven't forgotten about it because I shouldn't have put it on my fantasy team.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't end up reviewing all that well.
It's a 70-something.
But I did like that it showed her being empowered in a game.
I didn't dislike this.
I like the ideas behind it, but I think the aggregate score's right. It's a 6 or a 7.
It's a 7 out of 10, but it's a pretty pleasant 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. And there's really nothing else like it, which is crazy to think about, but it really is unique. And then we had Super Mario Party Jamboree, which I reviewed here on GameFace. I thought it was one of the best Super Mario parties I have played in a really long time. Maybe one of the best ones since the N64 era, to be perfectly honest. I have continued to play this off and on here and there, though I will admit that I end up quitting most of the games before they're ever finished.
Well, who has that many hours in a day, really?
And to do that, you have to hard restart your Switch. Which is just hilarious.
So they knew.
Yeah, they're like, no, you're not bailing out.
No, you're in here.
Yep.
You're done.
So I was pleasantly surprised by this game, and I think if you pick it up, if you get it over the holidays, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by it too. Or if you buy it for your kids, and your kids are like, come on, Dad, come on, Mom, play it with me. Like, I think you'll play it and be like, oh, actually, Shane was right. I'm actually enjoying my time with this game. So Super Mario Party Jamboree was one of them. Then it was Mario and Luigi Brothership. That just came out here over the last few weeks. I was not a huge fan of this. It reviewed better than my impressions of it. Its aggregate review score is higher than what I would have given the game. But I've also seen some people online that absolutely love this game and are like obsessed with this game and have spent like 100 hours on this game. So kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about different strokes for different folks. Like, there are some people that absolutely love this game. And I didn't hate it, but I just thought it wasn't really up to par or up to the quality of a typical Nintendo game. I thought there was a lot of padding in it. But it does introduce some unique mechanics and ideas and concepts like that, so I haven't completely written it off. And then that's it for the unique stuff. From there, it's Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door remaster, remake, then Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, then Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. So really, all you get from Nintendo exclusives that are brand new games, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is what I was saying, Matt, earlier when I was like, when you kind of write it all down and you look at Nintendo's year, you can see the transition is happening to Switch 2. And it does make me think a little bit that the Switch 2 might be coming sooner than we think.
I think they'd like it to be. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I imagine that we're going to get one more Direct where we get a couple more, like...
We haven't had a Direct
bones.
in 3 months, by the way. 3 months. I don't know if Nintendo's ever gone that long without doing a Direct. At least a mini Direct here or there.
We might be in for it could be one or the other. Could have a couple more remakes or remasters to fill the time in the first quarter or so.
I can't think of what they would be, though. Because it feels like it's gone through the whole Wii U catalog at this point. There's nothing left there.
Well, we got Xenoblade Chronicles X coming still.
Right.
What else could you put out there?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
You could remaster. I mean, they're willing to go back to the Super Nintendo for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, like a big...
That would be a big job.
A big Donkey Kong Country thing, because that
could be.
That just had the 30th anniversary.
As long as they don't make Retro do it. Let Retro finish Metroid, please.
There's always the rumored other Metroid Prime remasters that never got released.
Right. Yeah.
There's a couple things
There's
out
some
there. Filler they could drag.
Yeah. I hope they don't, but you're right. There's still a couple left. What letter grade would you give Nintendo for 2024?
Probably in the C- range.
That's what I give them, a C-. It's below average.
Yeah.
It just is. Nintendo has been on a tear. We have given Switch Platform of the Year, 4 years in a row, 3 years in a row? It deserves it.
Yeah.
And this year, I don't know.
They really thought they were going to have that new system out this fall.
I think you're right. Yep, I think they had planned on that happening, and it didn't happen, and they were kind of caught in a lurch. So only 4 original exclusive games for Switch from Nintendo in 2024. That might be the worst output ever for Switch from Nintendo.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's probably the worst.
I don't think it's the worst output for Nintendo ever, but
no.
It's definitely worse for the Switch.
For Switch, yeah. It's been great at getting a regular cadence of games out. Now we go to the Xbox Series X and Hellblade 2, which, wow, that game came and went with, I don't even know if it even had a whimper.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it obviously didn't sell because everyone played it on Game Pass, but like no one talks about this game. No one was talking about this game a week after it came out.
No, I mean, what's to say really? It was so similar to the previous one, and like it's a very slow paced game. I think a lot of people didn't get very far in it.
Yeah.
I liked it fine.
Yeah, I liked it too. It didn't last very long, but it was the perfect length for what it was. I think.
Like Ninja Theory definitely knows how long these things should be.
Yeah.
But they take a little longer to make them than they should.
Yeah, this game took way too long to make for what it was.
Yeah.
But
I was from a lot of the footage they put out before this year, I was hoping it was going to be a little more expanded in terms of scope, and it is in terms of scope, in terms of like the literal scope of the landscapes you're in, but in terms of what the game is doing, it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Yep. Rigor Mortis says I couldn't even finish it. It looks amazing on my video card, but I couldn't force myself to finish the game. I mean, I thought the graphics were enough to push me along to finish it. Like, it really is that stunning.
Somewhat,
like,
but it just, I mean, if you don't like slow walking and talking, you're not going to make it through this fucking thing. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just not, you better find what they're doing. They're engaging. There was moments where I'm just like, hurry up and panic and get through the dead bodies or something, because some of us have places to be.
Yep. Next up, Indiana Jones. We haven't got to play this yet, so this is a little bit of a wild card. It's the only major game left to release for the big three. So I mean, we could take it into account that it's there, but how good is it going to be? I mean, I really think this game could get like a 4 out of 10 or like a 9.5 out of 10.
There's no way to know.
There's no way to know. So that's really a wild card. We'll have to wait and see, but not that much longer. We're only a couple days away from figuring that one out. And then there was Stalker 2, which we just talked about last week, and we've talked about on this show. Then there was Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which did not end up being as good as I had hoped. Well, I wouldn't say not as good as I hoped.
It just wasn't as accessible.
Right. I thought it was going to be more accessible.
I was hoping there would be a mode for idiots.
Right.
Which is what I need on this, really. You know? Like, here, if you just want to fly plane, like, here you go. Like, just fly plane and drop shit on forest fires. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And it turns out a little more complicated than that.
Yeah. And then there was Aura History Untold.
Oh, right. This thing.
The 4X strategy game. And that was also, that's on the console and PC.
Yeah. Age of Mythology.
Yeah. That was on there. And then here's the X factor to me, Matt, about Xbox. Power World. Does it count?
Oh.
It was a console exclusive.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's
totally
totally accidental and they stumbled on it, but it was a big win, I think.
Vincent's Aura is not on Xbox.
Oh, I thought it was. Are you sure? Okay. He can look it up, and I can't, so I'm going to trust him on that one. Okay, so there's one you remove from the list, and then Power World's kind of dicey.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I mean, Power World doesn't really move the needle for me one way or the other. It's just, I didn't care about
But, I mean, it sold like 30 million. It was a huge smash hit.
Oh, sure, but whatever.
Yeah.
Did that benefit Xbox very much? Probably not.
Not really.
It seems like the vast majority of those sales were on PC.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess you could sort of consider the Xbox also PC because everything's also on PC and you're working through for most of that, other than Power World, you're probably working through the Xbox app.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't have to, but that's what we're stuck with.
And that's it, Matt, for Xbox in 2024. What are we doing here?
We're waiting for all the other stuff to get finished.
We keep waiting.
Yeah.
And waiting. It's been 4 years since a console launched. Mm-hmm. That's insane, Matt, that we still are getting that lineup for this console 4 years later.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't make any acquisitions.
They're honestly lucky that this was such a down year for everybody.
It's insane. D minus?
I'll give them a D because I liked several of those. But like again, I did play them all on PC. But it's like PC feels like it counts more for Xbox because it's also Microsoft. Like they don't care.
Yeah.
Like obviously everything they do is on PC. So
yeah.
I'll give them. I mean, and it's like I thought Hellblade was a little disappointing. I didn't dislike it, but I thought it was not what I was. It didn't blow me out the back of the theater the way I was hoping it would. Mm-hmm. You list all those other games, and again, Stalker thought was cool. Didn't blow me out the. Didn't love it. I mean, that's kind of the almost all of these lineups are that. It's like, well, I didn't love it.
I mean, Xbox, Hellblade 2, Indiana Jones, Stalker 2, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and Power World. Yeah. I mean, that is bad.
I mean, they're all bad. All the lineups are bad.
I mean, to me, Xbox is way worse.
I don't see a lot of difference between Xbox and PlayStation.
Really?
When it comes down to the stuff that I didn't also play on PC.
On
For
PC,
PlayStation.
the PC question.
Like,
I get that part.
Astrobot is obviously, way out ahead of just about everything else on all three of these lists for me.
Yep.
But like, I mean, Rise of the Ronin, is that really all that much better than Hellblade? No. Like, I mean, and at least Flight Simulator is a quality product, even if it's not for me.
Right. Yeah.
They weren't putting out crap. They were just sort of putting out stuff.
Rigor mortis, UK. Again, I don't know how Phil still has his job.
And I mean, true. But also, like, hey, if Indiana Jones blows me out of the back of the theater, that could change.
Then it goes from D minus to like D plus for me.
No, it depends how good that. I mean, again, you give me something as good as Astrobot with Indiana Jones in it, you can crawl up into the seas.
Yeah. All right.
But again, do I think that's going to happen? I don't know what to think about that game.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Those are our letter grades for the big three for 2024. You have to wait until our Game of the Year awards here in a couple weeks till we give you all the awards for all the other stuff. You can probably figure out what our platform of the year, though, is maybe from this, but maybe not, actually.
I'll tell you what my platform, you can figure that out easy.
Yeah.
But, like, again, this was a pretty good year. It's just none of it was first party.
Yeah.
Like, the best stuff this year came out of third party stuff.
Yeah, they just happened to sign deals.
Or indie stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're about to do Name That Game, but before that, here's a word from our sponsor, Leather Spa. Are you struggling to find that holiday gift for the person who has everything? Leather Spa to the rescue. Leather Spa is a go-to resource for discerning clients seeking the finest repair and care needs for their shoes and other leather accessories for more than 30 years. Old clothing has become a global waste problem, and you can do your part by protecting and maintaining items before it's too late. Leather Spa can maintain or repair your leather items, but it also includes water and stain protectors, shampoo and conditioner sets, premium socks, waxes, creams, shoe horns, shoe trees, insoles, and so much more. There's literally something for everyone on your holiday shopping list. Go to shop.leatherspa.com, !CC equals sifted to get 20% off through the holidays. Buy someone the gift that keeps on giving, and scratch those hard to buy folks off your list. Happy holidays from leatherspa.com. That's right, folks. If you're trying to find Christmas gifts for those hard-to-buy people on your list, particularly people who maybe have a little extra money and maybe a little bit wealthy, who have really high-end stuff, leather bags, leather coats, really expensive shoes, you know, the crazy people who spend like $1,000 on a pair of shoes, hook them up with Leather Spa. You get 20% off. And not only can you send in their stuff to get repaired or maintained or any stuff like that, and they'll actually, if you live in certain cities, will actually come and pick it up like a delivery service. There's also other stuff that you can buy there on their website that are just general care for people who want to do it on their own. Again, this is the mother company of New York Sneaker Society, so you know their products are good. They are even higher end than the Sneaker Society stuff. So again, go to shop.leatherspot.com /?CC equals sifted SIFTD. Get 20% off your order and make it happen for the holiday season. There's plenty of time. Still place an order and get it sent to whoever you're sending it to, or get it sent to yourself so you can wrap it up and give it away in plenty of time for the holiday season. Hook it up with Leather Spa.
Chat does point out that on the PlayStation list you left off Concord.
Oh, yeah. Gee, I wonder why.
Well, so did they. So.
That's a good point. All right, Sifters, it's time for... That's right, it's time for Name That Game, where I show you 5 screenshots from a video game, and you try to guess the name of the game before this guy right here. First of all, we've had this episode of Name That Game loaded in the TriCaster for like a month. I almost forgot what the game was. It's been so long. We haven't done this for like 3 weeks, so we keep running over with the showtime. So anyway, a couple things before we get going. If you've won this year, don't play. Although we're about to turn over. We're almost done with the year here. If you've won already, do not play. If you don't play PC games, please do not play, because if you win, you get a free PC game. And if you're just going to throw the code away or not use it, please don't play. Let somebody win the code who actually wants to win the code and play the PC game. And then finally, the chat goes into slow mode, so don't spam the chat with a bunch of random game titles, because you're probably going to be wrong. And then when you figure it out, you're going to try to put that in there, and it's going to be like, sorry, Charlie, you need to wait 60 seconds. So make sure you make your guesses count. Are you ready, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys ready to play Name That Game? Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go! Blue Dragon, no. From Big Dave Lazard. Oh, we have a winner already. We have 2 winners. You guys got it, no freaking problem. Yeah, it is Halo Infinite. Wow, you guys got it very easily off of that first image. This thing sat on our TriCaster for like a month, and then they got it in like 5 seconds. Okay, well, great job. That was very fast.
I know that grass anywhere.
That's hilarious. Okay. I mean, the building in the background, I did a terrible job there, actually. That's all my fault. Rigor Mortis UK, you are the winner. You literally got in like a split second before our second place entry, Sleeping Turtle 3. Or no, a bunch of people got it, actually.
ETH
Demon was second. So Rigor Mortis, you literally, yours went on, and then bang, like right after that, the other one did, but you won. So send me a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Sifted. I know you're on there. You know how to get at me. And I'll get you your free PC game. Congratulations for winning Name That Game. What else we got here? Oh, yeah. We need to run our ad still for Lands of Hyberian, actually. Yeah. Before we go. And I will make sure to do that if I can find it in this. The rundown for this episode is gigantic. I think there was 70 clips in today's episode or something insane like that. And I got lost somehow. I'll find it here. Oh, here it is. All right, here's a word from our sponsor. Our awesome sponsor, I would add, the Lands of Hyberian. Welcome to the Lands of Hyberian, an old-school turn-based RPG with a point-and-click adventure vibe. It's under development by sifter Hussein Stealthy Zaban. He's trying to finish his first ever video game, but he needs your help. The game currently includes around 4 hours of content, complete with 49 achievements. But his goal is to improve what he's already created and add another 2 hours before it's complete. Right now, as part of this special promotion, you can purchase this game for just $1. That goes towards things like trading cards, replacing AI art, voice acting, and the soundtrack. While it's certainly not required, Stealthy is hoping you'll provide as much feedback as possible to make this the first video game truly crafted by the Sifted community. There's work to be done, but Sifted Army, let's band together and try to make the best game possible. It's in Steam Early Access right now, and you can find a link to its product page in the description below, or just search for The Lands of Hyberian on Steam. Let's do this! So we only have one more week of that sponsorship. So I only have one more week to convince you guys to get in on the development of Lands of Hyberian. Go to Steam, search for Lands of Hyberian, Hyberian. If you've ever wanted to develop a game or create a video game, this is your chance. Again, we just have one more week of this sponsorship. I'm not going to be able to remind you many more times, so maybe make a note of it, write it on a Post-it note, put a note in your phone, go to Steam, search for the Lands of Hyberian, create a freaking video game, and get some credits in a video game. Work with Sifter Stealthy. He's awesome. I go back and forth with him all the time. He is a great dude. I'm sure working on a project with him is absolutely awesome. Get involved. If you've ever thought about making a video game, this is your chance. You will probably, I hate to say it, never have another chance like this if it's something that you're into. And if you do it and you like it, then you can start seeking out other projects, or you can create Lands of Hyberian 2 with Stealthy. So anyway, again, go to Steam, search for Lands of Hyberian, pay for it for $1. It's $1, and get in the community there, start giving him feedback, and help develop the game and finish that game off. Whew. Wow.
Breaking news.
What breaking news?
Erebus Jones, Wario 64 says xDefian is shutting down.
Oh, shocker.
Shocking.
Wow, that is kind of shocking, actually.
When did that actually come out?
Like
fully?
A few months
6
ago.
months ago?
Maybe 6, yeah. Nope, Ubisoft just can't.
No.
It's crazy. Tiny2K, thank you for Twitch
But you
Prime.
know what could have helped you with that?
Help me with what?
The consulting agency.
Oh, right.
Could have told you not to make xDefiant, or at the very least not call it that.
Yeah, yep.
Because once again, we've talked about that how many times on this show, and he mentioned that. I'm like, which one is xDefiant? Oh, right, the fucking Ubisoft thing.
That has like the all-star lineup of you that like you can't even recognize who the characters are in the game. Anyway, Ubisoft and free-to-play, like oil and water, it cannot figure it out. It really just can't. It's really sad. It needs to.
Yeah.
To survive.
Like when you're chasing the success of foam stars at this point, you probably should just stop.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 414. As I said, we'll be back here next Tuesday at twitch.tv/SiftedGames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Our last normal episode of GameFace for the year. After that, we'll be doing our Game of the Year awards and wrapping up the Game Awards and all that stuff, wrapping up our Fantasy League. That'll be the last episode of the year. Stay tuned for deets on that. We are supported 100% at patreon.com/sifted. I would really, really appreciate it if some of you guys who have been watching this show for years and years and haven't contributed in any way, if you could finally get off the sidelines and help us financially. This stuff isn't free. It costs money to do this. I don't know what else I can say. But please, it's the holidays. I don't know what else to say. Go to donate.sifted.net. If you're watching this and if you don't want to get involved with Patreon or whatever, I know some people have weird aversions to that kind of stuff. Just go to donate.sifted.net and you can punch in any amount. You can use any credit card and PayPal in over 100 different countries and give us whatever you want. A lot of you guys have already been doing that.
$1 million.
If you have that limit, go for it. Actually,
if Dr. Evil watches.
Well, if anybody did that, I would immediately refund the money because I know I would be in deep crap if I kept it. So anyway, thanks to everybody. Thanks to all our patrons who are supporting us. You guys are awesome. The people who run along the bottom of this show who are giving us $30 a month. You're the reason GameFace keeps happening. That's just the truth of it all. We appreciate all you guys. Everybody have a great week. GameFace is up and out.